Mi cerveza.
It's time for the beer podcast, Morty.
Worst beer podcast ever.
Steve and Adam, funny guys.
Hop Nation USA, beer podcast leaders for over 5 years.
It's episode 250 of the Hop Nation USA podcast, and we're here live on location at Stick City, celebrating, what is this, Adam, an anniversary of some sort?
I would say a milestone.
A milestone?
This is a milestone. So
That's better.
We're gonna treat ourselves.
Yeah, we're going to treat ourselves to some Stick City.
Yes, we are.
But, I mean, obviously, if we're on location at a new spot, we're talking to Nick Salkeld, the brewer of Stick City. So, why wouldn't we?
Of course. We didn't just, knock the door down and start setting up all our equipment while nobody else was here.
Right, we didn't sneak in.
That would just be mean.
Although, that could be a new show.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sneaking Brewery.
Well, welcome, that one is. Well, and welcome to you as well to our show. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we're here to talk beer.
Yeah, we'll be talking Stick City beer. We'll be talking about Stick City. We'll learn all about Nick, and then we'll play a game. That's how the show goes. You know how it goes. It's 250 episodes. How do you not know how it goes?
Maybe they're brand new. We don't know. Maybe
no, there's no new people.
Maybe we've got the Mars Chamber of Commerce listening in, supporting businesses.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Yeah. So if you are a first time listener, welcome.
Sure. Happy to have you, but you got some catch up work.
Hey, but you know what? Sometimes you just have to play mayor a little bit.
Yeah.
Just welcome everybody in.
Bump up some past episodes.
Yeah.
Give them listens. But yeah, we're talking to Nick and we're drinking Stick City beer. So we're going to drink 3 Stick City beers, but let's start with the first one because we thought it was somewhat apropos to what we're doing tonight. Nick, why don't you introduce it to us? Tell us all the stats, the figures, what kind of hops are in it, all. Give us everything you want.
The story, everything.
Yeah, this one here is Golden Boy. It is a hazy IPA, and it features Simcoe and Eldorado hops, barley and oats, with some local, it was Deer Creek malt in this one.
Okay, right on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we use some Colonial Pills.
What's the ABV on it?
It is 6.2%.
Right on.
So Deer Creek Malt, where are they out of? What's the story with them?
They're out in Eastern PA. I actually had the opportunity to use this stuff. We use a lot of local ingredients here. This was my first time using their stuff. The guys from Old Thunder were out that way picking up some beers for their Pilsner festival, and they shot me a note and said, "Hey, you want to try some Deer Creek Malt?" Like, yeah. So they picked up about 10 bags for us, 8 or 10 bags, and we threw it into a batch of beer.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's a unique one there for us. That's the first time we've ever used that. And don't really use a lot of Eldorado hops here just because I felt like I haven't really found the pair that I really enjoyed with it. But this one I think really comes through with the Simcoe. Mm-hmm. Simcoe and Eldorado plays good together. That pininess, kind of classic taste with that like more fruit, ripe fruit, sweet fruit forward of the Eldorado.
So was there a particular reason for this besides getting the new malt and trying out with the Eldorado? And on top of that, with the name, what's the story behind the name?
The name's a unique one. So this was because it was a brand new recipe with using a Deer Creek. It's kind of a framework. This is, a low 6% IPA format or background, generally barley, a little bit of oats. We'll do a little bit of wheat sometimes or a little bit of rye. So we were here one Thursday night. We have like our Thursday night crew that comes in. And the one guy, his name is Nick, and he also has a son named Henry. And my name is Nick, and I didn't know this at the time, but we named our son Henry. He's 10 months old, my wife and I. And I have this classic firearm. It's a Henry Golden Boy. So I was just joking about that. And it's just, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but it's a 22, I wouldn't say novelty, but it's a heirloom type of a gun. Yeah. It looks nice, Yep. For like hunting, you could use it for, or maybe just having it's like a collector's piece. Mm-hmm. But mine's the silver one, so it's a Henry Golden Boy. So they normally have gold on them. Yeah, but this is the Henry Golden Boy in silver, so that's why I bought it. So instead of putting Henry Golden Boy on I thought Golden Boy was it just was shorter, easier to roll off the tongue. But there's that little bit of a history. It was something that we were just talking about that night, and I'm like, Golden Boy it is. So
that's
it's
awesome.
Stuck. Yeah.
Well, see, now you have all these ways to expand it when you do, the half version or the double version. It could be the Golden Boy in silver when you do the double IPA.
Exactly. Yes.
Smart marketing. That's how I think. I just wanted to jump back for a second. You mentioned how you got this malt from the guys at Old Thunder.
Yeah.
And Adam, this is how brewers differentiate from beer drinkers. like your friend goes out to Virginia and they bring back Aslan for you.
Yeah.
His friends went out to the eastern part of PA and brought him
You
back
guys
new
got to
malts.
try this malt. I'm like, bring it in. It
Here's
was good.
half a truckload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really nice to use that for sure. That is true though. It's funny.
Looking at the beer though, it had like a really nice fluffy head to it. It's just like a nice tight compact white head. And then it looks kind of like a standard hazy IPA.
Yep.
But to smell it and taste it, it is definitely not in that realm of that same orange juice citrus.
Yep.
Citra that most people expect when they pick up pale ales and IPA New England styles anymore. I really like the flavor on this because it is different. It is differentiated.
It's yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's part of our mission statement to try to highlight terroir in beer through the ingredients. And so we do maybe some slightly. I think people are really, they'll bring in some Cascade and make hazies with them now, but we try to highlight the aromas and flavors through balance, as opposed to you can get these hazy IPAs that are more of a throat burner, and there are we have customers that are like, I want that, like, and I'm like, okay, when I transfer the beer and it's in the bright tank, come that next day, and then they're like, you need to get this out right now, and I'm like, but for us, I feel like the balance aspect, like nothing is like the hops don't overpower the malt,
Right.
Or the grain. And there's still some of that fruity yeast character in there. The water, being balanced, it kind of allows all of those things to shine. So we're very process focused with brewing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say like to drink this, there's a lot of that herbaceous and pininess up front from the Simcoe.
Yeah.
But then it does finish like fruity and then like really soft because of the oats that you have in there. So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that's a great descriptor of it.
We try.
I was hoping I was getting there, and it's nice to hear you say that. So
but this hits all the notes, and this is as a fan of like West Coast IPAs, the flavor profile is more of a throwback to that. It's not a complete palate burnout, and it is softer than a lot of West Coast IPAs. But I fully enjoy this. This is a good beer.
And funny enough, coming from the other end of the spectrum, someone who does not drink IPAs, I abhor West Coast IPAs. Hate them.
Lots of bitterness.
Yes. There's too much bitterness in this world as it is.
Yes.
We don't need more.
Right.
But I really like this beer. It's actually really good.
Excellent. Thank you. Awesome.
And what I like about it is, yes, it had that nose to kind of pull the the hop heads in, but it had a good balance to it for those of us that are not in that hop realm, that just want a good, well-balanced beer. I think this hits that quite well.
Thank you. Yeah, that's again like we're going for. I try to get each of those facets of the ingredients to poke through. This one obviously a little bit more on that hop side,
Right?
but nothing is really overwhelming.
Right. And this is, and I've used this before, but this is the kind of beer, if you're trying to pull somebody over to the IPA side of things, this is a great beer to start somebody down that path.
Right. And we have seen that here for sure with some folks. They come in, we have a brown ale, which is surprising it's not on there. It just kicked last week, Cabot Squatch. And it's typically on there. And that's like our gateway for some coming into Mars. This was a dry town before we opened, and specifically in the borough itself. And they had a referendum and we were able to get it passed. And, they came, people were like, oh, okay, what is this? And, it was kind of skeptical. It can be a little intimidating looking at all these different varieties. And Cabot Squatch was always the one that folks would start on. And they absolutely despise the word IPA, or the letters, I guess I should say. And we're like, well, why don't you try this one? And then now they like some of them are so they're on they're on the hop chase now. Some of us have been there before.
Chasing the
like
dragon.
Yeah.
So now they're like, I can't even go back. They'll have the brown ale. They're like, I'll have one, but then they're like, I got to get those hops. It's
It's interesting how people who like they get started down that road. Like, a lot of people are like reliving what we already did, like 2007, 2008.
Yes,
chasing
exactly.
like the hoppiest beer you can find.
I'm thinking like Stone Ruination was one that my brother and I, we lived in Squirrel Hill at the time. I was going to Pitt and he just finished up and was working. And I forget what the 6-pack shop was, but we'd go down and they would get some things in And Stone Ruination was always the one that we were fighting to find. At least I was. That was that double was, it was just everything. Very bitter.
That was such a good one.
I find it interesting that this is now the second brewery that has been created in a spot that had a referendum to bring alcohol back in. Lincoln Avenue in Bellevue was another one.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that that's still a thing around here.
I know. And it's just legacy stuff that's been there since 1933. The state allowed local municipalities to make that call. Mars is not that large of a town. Just 100 yards, 200 yards down the road, you're in Adams Township, and they've had a bar down there. So it's almost like
just why?
No one ever went through it. Yeah. But I think we've been received very well here. I think it's been a good thing. Town's been bringing people in from all outside the area, especially like a brewery type of a model, as opposed to maybe just the restaurant. But they're working on that too, so they're going to get a restaurant here eventually.
Nice.
Right on. Nice. Well, I can tell you, it brought us here.
Yeah.
So it worked.
We love it.
I mean, we've definitely had like your beers before.
Sweet.
It's just this is honestly my first time in your tap room. Though.
That's great.
But it's I've had your beers at different beer festivals or just picked them up. When I see them out on tap and things like that. So like I've had the Cabot Squatch.
Nice.
We're definitely pro brown ale on this.
Yes,
show,
that is awesome. I love that.
But yeah, I've also had like a lot of your IPAs, especially when you go out to like Beers of the Berg.
Yeah.
Just, coming up for people who
hint, get your tickets.
Yes.
Get them while you can. But so for the listeners who aren't familiar with the Western PA area, we are kind of outside of the Pittsburgh area at the moment. And we're technically in Butler County. And this is, Stick City is one of those breweries that's in the smaller Outer Banks that is able to capture, like you're saying, essentially brand new drinkers to the craft beer
It's
scene.
true. Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit more about how you came up with Stick City?
Stick City was something my dad is an ideator. He can create so many ideas. If anybody ever needs an idea, he can give you probably 100. He, Neil Young would write 1 billion songs, and with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and all those guys. The other guys would write a few. He's kind of like the Neil Young of it, where he just has so many ideas. And so the Stick City name was something that he came up with, not specifically for the brewery, but it was more when I was growing up. We grew up, I'm born and raised in Butler County, and he grew up in Cabot in Butler County here.
Okay.
That's where the Cabot Squatch name comes from. It's probably the more rural part of Butler County.
Yeah.
Which I know some folks think that it's all rural up here, but it's okay.
Oh man,
maybe you're right.
It mostly is. It's like there's Mars and Cranberry, and then there's downtown Butler.
Yes, right. And Cabot's like whoa, And my mom grew up in Herman, which is another small town. It's kind of like eastern of Butler City. So when I grew up out there in Cabot, my dad got some property from his parents, and mom and his brother and sister, my aunt and uncle, lived out there too. So we got our start out there. And I think it was when I was 3 or so. Mom and dad moved us into Butler City, and so he kind of got picked on by all the folks out there. But we would always go out. Because he moved into the city, like he was a city slicker or something, like Butler City. Ironic, I know.
They got a McDonald's and a Burger King.
I know.
It's really funny just because, if you even look at downtown Pittsburgh still isn't that big.
It's not that big of a city.
Really isn't.
So, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so we moved in, and it was just to get us closer to schools, which was great because it gave us a lot more access to do extracurriculars and things. But then, so when we go back out and visit, you still have the property, we'd camp and, ride ATVs and hike around, do a little hunting, some fishing out in that region. And so he would always say on the weekends, we're going out to the sticks. It's the countryside.
Yeah.
And then it became Stick Cities. We're going to Stick City. We're going to Stick City. And so it just stuck. And when we were talking about brewery names, this was I guess that'd have been around 2010-ish.
Okay.
Around that time frame. And then he would say, or it was just something that came up that we're like, why don't we call it Stick City? Because we love the Eastern hemlock, the tree that plays a lot. Our whole brand is based around that. So the outdoors in these places, it eventually became when we were working professionals, like my family, we would go out to Stick City visit with family and things, but then it would be like this Serenity Now type of thing where you just go out there to recharge.
Yep.
You know, oxygen. It seems like you can breathe a little bit better from the trees and whatnot. So Stick City developed into something that's maybe not so unique just to us, something that's more for everybody to enjoy. Stick City is like the place you go to connect. And it can be like taking a walk at lunch through the local park, basically smelling the roses kind of thing, So that's what the whole Stick City names are built around that. And our whole brand is built around that aspect of like finding a way to connect more with your wild and natural areas and waterways. And then in through that, if people find value in them and appreciate them, they'll want to find ways to protect them,
Right.
So
yeah. And just, it's a motif all throughout the brewery, as you already talked about. Like it seems like there's a lot of reclaimed wood that's been turned into tables and siding and
one of the best bars I've ever seen.
Yeah, the bar, that's actually a local guy named Bert here in Cranberry Township. He built this for us. It was one of his bigger projects to build the bar like that. It's black walnut top. It's a huge piece of black walnut. We were so lucky to get that from him. People love that. It's beautiful. And the support, it's an open bar. Like you can see everything behind the bar.
Right.
Is locust root that he actually dug out of the ground. And locust is great to have, the floor can get wet, when you're mopping, and sometimes we'll even hose the floor down. Locust is really great with water.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
So it's really durable.
Yeah,
so it's a durable bar. It's like functional at the same time as being cool looking.
Was that planned to use the locust as the base for the bar? Or was it just sort of a happy
So
accident?
we mentioned that, and it's a scrappy wood. It's hard to work with. In fact, a lot of hop pools are made from locust tree.
Oh, okay.
Because it's just in fence posts, like everyone knows. In fact, sometimes when you get locust trees growing on your property, you can't get them to stop. They kind of shoot their roots all over the place.
Yeah.
And they're all genetically, it's almost like a quake and aspen. They're all genetically the same. And they're just everywhere. You have to like try to not let them grow. They'll turn everything into locust. I don't know if they're native. I should know that, but it's like an invasive native, if so.
Okay.
So
they play for keeps.
Oh yeah. So that's my wood talk of inexperience with wood, but that's what I think I know about it.
Well, hey, that's more than I knew. So surely other listeners are like, oh, cool.
And they can leave a comment if I'm totally wrong. Be like, he's totally wrong. Like, so yeah, okay, I'll learn from that.
Or they can just regurgitate that fact.
Yes.
Let's
propagate it.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I mean, reusing a lot of the wood and just it gives a more natural feel to, and also like that bar is one of the most unique ones we've seen.
Yeah.
So that is a cool thing.
I wouldn't dance on it, but
right.
Like anybody, I'm like, do not get on the bar because
we give you a Hop Nation USA guarantee.
Yeah.
We will not be doing that.
Yeah, it can hold your drinks. It can hold your coats. Do not put anything else.
Yeah, don't dance on this bar.
But yeah, it's really cool. And, like we were saying, it speaks to like the conservation nature that you're, shooting for. And that's part of your philosophy. You also mentioned how like you're working with local maltsters and other growers. Can you talk about like some of the other people you've hit?
CNC
obviously.
Malt. We work with them a lot, and there's a unique relationship with them. That's Clearfield Elementary School that he's in. That's where my dad went to elementary school.
Oh, no kidding.
So he's actually located out in the vicinity of Stick City with the malting facility. So it was weird for my dad to go walking through there. And the old tile that was down on the floor, actually my grandfather, his dad, had placed in Brendan there at CNC.
That's awesome.
He had to remove that, for the malting. So it was there's a unique connection with that out there. So it like I said, that using local ingredients, and we're trying to incorporate that more and more and more as much as we can, is near and dear to us, especially because of that connection. In fact, the family field, like the Stick City, there's a field that a farmer by the name of Dale Ambrose, he's been farming it for a long time. I was at my cousin's wedding, which was in the backyard of my grandmother's house where my cousin lives now. And this was a few years ago, 2019, I believe. 2018, maybe. I can't remember. I think it was 2019. And there was wheat in the field. And as I'm there for the wedding, I'm I'm pulling off pieces. I'm texting Brendan. I'm like, you got to check this field out. If this is good. He went through, did the proper testing for it and got it. And he ended up buying the whole field.
No kidding.
We've put that in beer. And a lot of people who have used, like we made a nice Saison with it. And anytime we needed malted wheat, and it was excellent. That's really something that I'm like, that's really cool. Yeah. So them, CNC Malt, and Hazy Days Hop Farm, which is Noah Petronic. He grows hops out near Prospect on the Sorgels farm out there.
Okay. All right.
And they're awesome hops. And then another grower up in Sandy Lake area, Hopstop Farm, another great hop farm up there. And these folks are literally focusing so hard on quality. And I'm probably going to end up losing some of my allotments for this because hopefully other brewers are just going to go grab all this stuff along with me, because the quality of these hops, we were opening up some of the bags just this last year in particular, and even the year before that. But this last year was magic. Like we'd open these bags, just huge aromas. It was a great year
just
for Pennsylvania hops.
out.
Yeah. The Centennial was, and the Cascade. I've never smelled Cascade like this.
Did they get into what they were doing to make sure they have that level of quality control?
So there's a lot of feedback, which is great. This is what's so cool. And we did a little bit of this even in New Zealand. The farmer does their job getting the hop in the form that it is. Where the challenge is, it seems to me, is growing it is one thing, but then how do you take it, harvest it, dry it to the proper levels, and then get it pelletized? They both pelletize.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
CNC Malt does the pelletizing and packaging for Hazy Days. Hopstop Farm does their own up there. The grind of the pellet, the dryness before it's pelletized, each different hop. And I've worked closely with them on those aspects of the hops that I think it's just that feedback approach. And them tasting the beers and hearing this from other brewers too that use it. And they make that, iterative approach to it. That's the benefit. And I think it's almost like a vertical integration for us in Western Pennsylvania in particular, because where else in the world, like there's not a whole, there's this, it's that, I don't know if it's what would be the longitude. Is it latitude? Which
latitude.
one?
Latitude goes up and down.
Yeah, okay.
Longitude
Yep.
goes around.
Yeah, so
That is incorrect.
It's the other way around.
Latitude is side because it sits on your lap.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I was thinking long. The Earth's long. I don't know. So
This is the second
Whatever.
time in 48 hours I've had this conversation.
so the one where if you follow it around the Earth, like what way would
Like the equator is a latitude.
Yeah. Okay, a latitude. So the
Yes.
latitude, and I should know that, but I forget some things. When you look around the world, it's the hop growing region. We're kind of in that. And our climate, it's a little bit wet through summer, which can present some challenges. It's not like typically near wine growing regions where they have a dry late summer
Right.
is the best. Mainly just to keep disease off and being able to harvest better. But we're lucky. We've got some great hop growing.
Yeah.
It's a great hop growing region.
Up and down the I-79 corridor.
Yeah, I know. And the barley, the wheat, the rye. CNC even malts corn. I know 4 Points has used a lot of that. I haven't used the malted corn, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're also lucky to be on like the jet stream as well.
Yes.
Because it's the same thing that cuts right through Seattle, and it dips down through the middle of the country for some reason, and then comes right back up through Pittsburgh.
That's why our weather's always so wonderful.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of rain
That's
and
why
clouds.
we're just as gray and more wet than Seattle.
Yes.
So
I know.
whoop-de-doo.
That is so true. Yeah, but we're lucky. So yeah, those three in particular are the ones that we work with a lot. I text message them it seems almost weekly.
Right
Yeah.
on. Yeah. Yeah, that's great though. I mean, it's cool because like I think we first kind of heard of CNC Malt at like a homebrew festival.
Yeah.
And he was just like passing out samples. He's like, here, brew something with
Yeah,
this.
and
Try
it
Yeah.
wasn't samples. It was like 10-pound bags.
Yeah.
And it's great. And him and I have worked on, he sends his stuff out for an actual certificate of analysis with I think it's Hartwick College or something. And so we get to, it's like you can compare it to the ones, like the big guys.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Like
Right.
it's in what he was shooting to get. It's there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah. So you throw it through the brewery. I'm a very focused numbers guy with brewing. So I try to be, I try to learn as much as I can as I go. And so I full send. It's like whatever it is. Like you look at the analysis. Oh, it's perfect. Send it in. Yeah.
But like so many,
It works great.
Yeah, so many good breweries in our area like noticed the quality of his stuff, and like
it's great.
You know, they adopted it. Like Abjuration 4 points.
Yeah, they use all
Lincoln
of it,
Ave. Yeah.
Yep,
So,
they all use that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome to see, and it's awesome that it's again a local, a local person.
So you had just mentioned about going full send, and we had talked about the bar, but now I'm going to look past the bar at all of your taps.
Yes.
Every single one of your taps is a side pull.
Yes, it is.
Which to some people that is controversial.
Yeah, this is a continuing storyline on this show.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I guess it could be controversial because you're like, well, that's a lager tap, right? It's for a Czech lager. You pour the foam. Since we started with the I forget what they were called. They were the Roto tap, and it was a flow adjustable. Has a European style faucet.
Okay.
It comes down with the long stem. They were great, and we could finish it. It had sort of a creamer feature on it. We always, from the day we started, finish our beer with at least an inch of foam on our straight side glass.
Okay.
And the Czech ones, it's how they do it in the Czech. It's especially being here in Mars, you give some of these folks up in Butler County that much foam, they actually, like one guy was like, he's like, you're cheating me. I'm like, no. I'm like, you're getting the full 15 ounces of beer, and I'm giving you at least an ounce and a half of foam for free.
Yeah, right.
You're going to have to get an old Hefeweizen glass that has the half-liter line on it.
Yeah, right. And so, these have the line, but so, you can educate people at some point, but then it's like they didn't want it. So we would literally just fill it to where we would then add the foam and just leave it. And they were happy. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Right.
But I'm like, if you took the foam and just let it sit for 10 minutes, you'd have even more beer.
It's free beer.
It's real beer. So I mean, there is certainly some controversy there, but what we liked, so the taps that we were using, and I loved them, they were those Roto taps. Micromatic carried them, but then they quit carrying the parts. They quit carrying the whole tap. So I was running out of spare parts, and the little plastic piece on the inside, it must be the way that we clean the lines, it cracked. It would crack. There was this little weak point. And so then they would leak, and I hated that because we're always looking at things on the insides, and it would, I hated it. So I'm like, I bought a bunch of spare parts, and then they're like, we're not carrying it anymore. So I'm like, what are we going to do? And we had already had 2 side pulls at that point. We put the side pull in service early in 19, one of them. And that was at the time, I mean, we contacted the company direct, like through their contact us page in the Czech. And he was like, sure. And we had to wire transfer money to the Czech. And, my mom runs a book. So I'm like, I'm wiring money through a credit card because I'm like, I don't even know I've never done anything in the Czech before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll use a credit card. It was like a little bit of a higher fee. But I'm like, oh, what's $20 for the fee? But I'll get my
A little bit of added security.
Yeah. Well, then they shut the credit card off and like all this stuff. My mom's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm getting these side pull faucets, and it's, money being wired to the Czech Republic. So that's not like that now. They have an online service now that you can actually get them, which makes it a lot nicer. You don't have to get your credit card shut off. But
Which is always a plus.
So it was because I couldn't get those parts. The staff was really loving them. We were pouring IPAs and things on them. And so I'm like, well, we like flow adjustable. They can pour a really nice foam. You can milk pour every beer up there you want. We did that before though. The other tap, the Roto taps, you could milk pour. My dad always likes to do that. When you're here all day, sometimes when you're trying to be with customers, you got to have some sort of a beer. He'll basically do milk pours just to limit the amount of. He still has like something to sip on, but it's not as much.
Yeah.
So then we made the decision, and I worked with them. When you buy enough of them, they do give you a little bit of a price break. So
that's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice because it wasn't cheap. But we're all about the experience with the beer here. That's all we do. We don't have a restaurant. We don't have a kitchen. We have some of the best food trucks. They're each have their own great story, especially the ones that have been coming here. It's been great. We're all about that beer experience. So clean glass, rinsed glass, proper foam on every beer, every time. And it's always we don't ever reuse the glass because with these Czech faucets, there are the ways that you can dunk the faucet. I don't want to be especially in this world now. I never wanted it before, but I'm like, I don't want your COVID glass Dunkin' beer up in here. I'm like, we'll get you a fresh one, completely sanitized, ready to go, no bubbles in the beer in the glass. So yeah, so we made that decision. That was last year. It was last year, I think. But it took a little bit. So it was we were preparing for it. You can't do the standard spacing to run side pulls because of the handle coming off the side.
Okay, yeah.
So we were already working towards that when we initially got them. We knew this was something that was coming. And so we redid our whole tap line to space them out further apart so they can all fit.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're flow adjustable too. So like, that really makes it so nice. We have a direct draw system. Our lines are super short, which helps.
Mm-hmm.
If we had regular taps, our beers they'd all be milk pours and nobody would be happy. I don't even know if we'd be able to do it because it'd just crank out, or it'd be so low on pressure that it would off gas and be flat. So,
Say, did anybody come in here specifically because you had the side poles?
It was when Human Robot was really doing this milk tube thing, and the breweries and PA guys were kind of promoting that, and it was like blowing up on Facebook. We then had a lot of folks coming in. Like other than that, this is a great story. I think at least when we have our Arctos pills, there was a Czech fellow who came in and he was enamored. He couldn't believe we had the actual glass and the pour and a beer that had Czech Saaz hops. And he did note that our Pilsner is a little bit lower on bitterness. I said, true.
Okay.
That's on purpose. I'm like, I'm working, I'm trying to balance these two styles. That's where it's at. And he's like, cool. But there were these other guys, they had to have been from the Czech or somewhere, Eastern Europe or something. I'm not sure. They came in and they were like, we want the Czech beer. And they did like the motion of it. Yeah. And we're like, okay. And they went outside and they sat here all afternoon and smoked ciggies and drank Pilsner all afternoon. Like they were in home,
That's awesome.
And I was like, this is magic. And like, we don't allow smoking out there. And, Mom's like, we got to go tell them. I'm like, Mom, they're having their time. I'm like, they're far away from other people.
Yep.
We're going to let these folks enjoy this moment. They're at home right now.
It's for the greater good.
Yeah. So that was fun to see. But yeah, I think it was around that milk pour time that whenever that kind of really blew up that people were coming in for it.
Yeah, because I think it's around that time that East End started pouring Czech pills, and that's like where we had our first milk pour.
Fun.
We went to East End, and then we had caught word about with Ben opening Arboretum.
Yeah.
He had talked about how he's going to do, and he mentioned you specifically, I think, in an article. And he's like, I'm going to do it exactly like Stick City. I'm going to put all those side pulls in. And it's like,
they're great beer faucets.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great beer faucets. They are finicky. They're traditionally made, so like the design is complex. There's a ton of parts in them, so they do require a little bit of care there. So when you buy your side pull, buy spare parts, a lot of them. So we have a lot here because you're buying they're still coming from the Czech. So.
Yeah. It's just like you have to get directly from them, and it's only them. It's only Luker.
Yeah.
I know someone like Micromatic, they got the drawings and they're like, we'll never make money if we make this. And I'm like, you're right. There's so many parts. Brass bushings, nylon this, like gaskets, O-rings, like the ball. It's an actual ball valve in there. When we teach a tapster, we call them tapsters here. Which is a Czech term. That's what they call them in the Czech.
I did not know that.
Yeah, tapster. And we're like, someone's coming on and they're like intimidated. Because when you get really good and it's a busy day and everything's really cooled down, you can open that baby up and really get a beer to rip through it. And it's great because it's such an open flow path. It holds more of the carbonation, that gentle carbonation into it. I believe so. And I know from drinking it. So, yeah.
Right on.
It's fun.
Yeah. Cool. So, and another thing I wanted to bring up about Stick City, and this goes back to the conservation, but you are the first brewery in PA to be a part of the 1% for the planet.
Yep. I believe that's still true.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I mean, if
I
you're the
haven't
first.
looked it up. I said that. Yeah. We were. We should still be, I think. But
I mean, if you're the first, you stay the first. But
right, yeah, the first one, yeah. But I don't know if anyone else has joined it. But yeah, what that is the founder of Patagonia Clothing, and there's a fly shop in West Yellowstone, Montana, Blue Ribbon Flies. Those two guys are buddies, and they both like to fly fish. And they realized that their businesses were so heavily hedged on wild and natural areas, right? The places to go fishing, the places to go rock climbing, like what people wear Patagonia clothes for, who actually use them for the reasons why some of them are made. You know, so they realized that, and they said, well, we need to do something like basically a self-imposed tax.
Okay.
To give back to these things, because they're so worried about, in the same light that this was the same philosophy we put towards us. You know, you're so worried about what you do for your business and trying to keep alive running the business that you can't do a lot of the grassroots types of things to help protect these places. So like we see Stick City Beer as a companion to take when you're outside and enjoying these places. It's more of like a social element or something that like enhances the experience outside. So they recognized that for their business specifically. So they created this basically self-imposed tax. And they initially started out, and using the word tax is not always fun. Ever. So they got rid of saying, they used to call it earth tax, and they would have this as something, and then it just became 1% for the planet. So 1% of sales, not profits, because profits, you can always play the tax code and never show a profit. So you don't give anything. So it's on sale. So it is almost like, a self-imposed tax. So 1% of annual sales we donate to local, and we're working on some of the larger ones too, where we can help out environmental nonprofits, and we focus on ones that are for like the protection or increasing access to, not so much against. So we don't focus on these groups that are just out there being against stuff and like, that the kind of like earth first stuff where they're like blowing things up. Like we're not for that type of a destructive thing.
So they don't fund eco-terrorism.
Yeah.
So that's a plus.
that actually, that's a good way to put it. And because that just, I feel like those sorts of behaviors propagate problems, and it makes people be more divisive. So yeah, we focus on, so a lot of the groups we donate to, PA Parks and Forest Foundation here in the state of Pennsylvania, they help out all of our state parks and state forests with where the state can only do so much. They can only get so much funding. And so this group helps them out on the balance of those other things. The Western Pennsylvania Conservancy is a great group. They actually have falling water under their hat.
Oh, nice.
But they like take large tracts of land and they'll purchase them. They'll go off of tax rules for a little bit, but they'll put these conservation easements that allow public access, or like you can't clear cut it and can't do these certain activities, but it can go back into the private enterprise. So a lot of logging companies end up buying the property back from them, but those logging companies can't, most of them don't anymore, but they, people can go on there and hunt, or people can go on there and not always camp, but hike around and be on the property. So access is a big thing, I think. So that was another one, Western PA Conservancy. Natural Areas Association, we work with. Rachel Carson Trails Conservancy we're working with now, which is a new one. We have a project with them this year. I know I'm forgetting one. Oh, the Glade Run Lake Conservancy. They're local to here. There's a small state-owned lake that actually the dam needed work. It's a man-made lake. It was like for fishing and recreation. It ended up having to be drained because the dam wasn't safe. All the locals got together and formed a group, Glade Run Lake Conservancy, raised money, were able to lobby to get some of the local officials to help with everything, and they got the dams back in nice and safe.
Oh, nice.
And the lake's open. Those are like gateway outdoor areas for people.
Right.
So
I have never heard of. I've never heard of that lake before.
it's small. It's not very big. Yeah. But it's a sweet spot. It's like a gateway spot. Kids go there. It might be their first time kayaking or being near a lake.
Yeah.
So-
I live not too far from Raccoon State Park. So it's very similar. It's a man-made with a dam.
Yep.
And so you got fishing on the one side, kayaking, canoeing on the other side. And, and it's very low impact because you can drive your car in.
Right.
You can go up to, like, they have a fucking hamburger stand.
Yes.
So like
You're like, damn, I'm about to get a hamburger right now.
Yeah.
Look at this lake. No beer in state parks though.
No.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
So it's not, you got to trek way in or anything like that. But it is, like you're saying, that gateway for
it is.
people to come in and appreciate nature.
Yep.
Without being too far off of
Right.
Yeah. That's a big reason for why we're in business, that part of it right
Yeah,
there. Yep.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate that.
And another good reason is this beer that we just had.
Yes.
The Golden Boy.
Golden
is
Boy.
IPA. My glass is empty.
Let's go get the other one.
Okay. I will genuinely say I enjoyed this beer.
Awesome. Thank
There
you.
are not many IPAs out there that I like. This is on that short list.
Oh,
and
thank you.
that is not,
that means a lot to me for sure.
that is not blowing smoke. This is I legitimately like this
Thank you.
beer. I would drink it again.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I mean, if Adam likes an IPA, like, what do you expect me to say? Of course I like it. It has a different flavor profile. It's far more interesting than just like the normal throw down some Citra and some Mosaic and, hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
You have you have a lot of herbaceousness going with it, but like you were talking about before, there's a nice balance to the drinking experience because it drinks very much like an IPA up front, but finishes fruity and soft.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great beer all around.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I don't know if we mentioned it, but this is episode 250.
It is.
And then in doing research for this episode, I had noticed that this was your 100th beer that you had added
That
to
is
Untapped.
wild.
I don't
Yeah.
know I don't know how true that is. That if you have other beers that you just never put on, or but
I think all of them are on there. I mean, if we don't add them, someone else does.
right. So
That has to be. Yeah. Because
So-
you can't delete beers from Untapped. We're not a verified venue. We don't pay into the Untapped.
right.
I do manage it just to make sure because a lot of folks use it. So I try to keep it consistent.
Right.
So the descriptors are, things that they can trust,
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we just thought that was a fun thing, and that's why we had that one on. But
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Great beer.
Beer 100 on Untapped.
So what do you say
Episode
we
250.
we take a quick break, get a fresh beer poured up,
yeah.
talk a little bit more Stick City
Let's
Okay.
do it.
right after this.
Yeah.
First Sip Brew Box is a one-of-a-kind subscription service for craft beer lovers based right here in Pittsburgh. Every month, First Sip will send you a box full of craft beer enthusiast essentials, including t-shirts, glassware, and even food. Right now, our friends at First Sip Brew Box have an offer for you. Just sign up for a 3-month subscription and get your 4th month free. Just enter the code HOPUSA when you sign up at firstsipbrewbox.com. That's HOPUSA at checkout to get your 4th month free at firstsipbrewbox.com.
It's episode 250 of the Hop Nation USA podcast, and we're still here live at Stick City in beautiful Mars, PA. An old stomping ground of sorts for me, as I used to deliver auto parts all through this fucking area. So,
Welcome back.
yeah. Very, very familiar, but that's like in the days of Harrisford and hops for.
Oh, that's right. Wow. That's way back. Not too far, but
It's back enough.
Far enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Far enough.
where you cooked your own steak, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
Cooked your own steak, and you get some Pilsners. And we have some Pilsners.
Yes, we do.
So, Nick, why don't you introduce the next beer?
This one is Arctos 12 Play-Doh. It's a blend of styles. It's our favorite. It's our Pilsner that we make, our classic pale lager from a Stick City standpoint. And it's a blend of the two styles. So we take what we like from Czech Pils, Czech pale lager, and we take what we like from German Pils, and we make Arctos. And it's basically German in the sense of the grain and the yeast. Both water profiles of those places would be fairly soft. And it's Czech Saaz hops. I just think I've used German Saaz. The Germans don't really like Saaz in general anyways. They like their, Tettnanger and Hallertau type hops, which are great. They're like Spalt or they're all awesome.
Mittelfru.
Mittelfru, yeah. They're all really, really good hops. But the Czech Saaz just has that spicy, herbal, floral characteristic. And it's just such an old variety. Now, I've heard we were planning on going to the Czech in the fall of 2020 before the world changed.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
And because we were in New Zealand in their fall, our spring in March of 2020.
Oh,
Okay.
So my wife and I at that time, it was a honeymoon and a hop exploration trip and a brown trout exploration trip because they've got rivers full of brown trout.
Oh, wow.
Fly fishing type thing. But so the Czech was going to be one that Dad and I were going to head over there and watch their hop harvest. And Saws apparently is like weatherproof because there's some of these places that's so old and the vines are the roots are set up so well that even if it's like a low rain year, they still produce. But it's a finicky hop to grow. Like Riwaka is based off of Saws, and it's also finicky. So it got the finicky aspects of Saws, which is why it costs $9 million a pound.
Well, also it has to come from the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, down in New Zealand. They were like peering over this one hop farm we went to down in New Zealand. This is a quick aside. I'm like in a field of Nelson. I'm like, a quick little snip of this root. I got Nelson back home.
Right.
That's illegal, maybe. Probably not illegal. Although in the sense
Frowned
of like,
upon.
you're bringing an they always ask you, are you bringing like an agricultural thing into the United States? No, but there's a root of Nelson in my boot that I just didn't know was there. We did not do that, but I felt like they were watching.
Wait,
they were like, oh, go have a walk through the hop field, and I'm just taking pictures and stuff. I'm like, are they seeing if I'm going to clip a root off?
I'm sure.
I mean, I was thinking about trying, but I didn't. I promise.
It's not. I wouldn't go as so far to call it espionage, but some other people would when you like takes a proprietary thing from.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but that's ours.
That's ours. You can't leave with that.
I feel like hops are kind of. I've never dealt drugs, but I feel like that would be kind of what dealing drugs is like. Is hops. Prices are always changing.
That's our
somebody
blend.
has
Those are our clones. Those are
these are ours. You can't have them.
Kilos of fuggle sewed into seats of vans.
Brandishing firearms, for hops.
Fuggles are the mids.
Oh, we will be having words in the parking lot after this
Those
one.
are great hops too.
So, back to the beer though.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it looks like a Pilsner. It's hard to comment on beers that are as simple as this.
Yes.
But I mean, you're not missing the target.
No.
You didn't give us another hazy IPA. So.
Right. This is one that this is probably the hardest beer I've ever developed and made in my life. It takes a long time. The yeast that we use is unconventional in the sense that it's a high sulfur producer during fermentation. And it sucks when we always brew lager in like January. All the doors are closed. You'll come in and it'll be like
Eggs.
Yeah. People will be like, why does it smell? It's like farts. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like farts in here.
Yeah. Just for the listeners at home who can't see this, but maybe you can piece it out from what we post on social media. The brewery is right in here with the customers. Like you're sitting right up against the tanks.
Yeah.
You can see everything. You can try to touch and get yelled at, but
Yes.
But yeah, there's no escaping. So if you're brewing, it smells like brewing, and if it smells like fucking egg farts, it smells like egg farts.
Yes. Yeah, that H2S coming off. Yeah, so it's we should do it more in the summer, but that's not lager time. We need to make a lot more ales then. But yeah, so we take our time with it. We do as much German thinking as we can on a 2-vessel pub style brewery, which is more of an English approach. We don't do decoctions on it. We do have a direct fire kettle, which definitely gives some of the color to the beer and the head retention for sure. So we really focus on making sure that we're doing everything we can to retain good foam, beer foam. And I use the word foam because, the head of the beer is one thing. Head, I feel like it can dissipate, but the foam, you can see the lacing on the glasses that you have now.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because it is some of like the best lacing
like
I've
meringue.
ever seen. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
some of the
and
best
that's
lacing
so
I've ever
hard with
seen.
the lager because it's literally just Pils malt and Czech saws and the hops definitely help with all that.
I'd say, is that what you would consider Stick City's calling card? Is the foam in the head? I'll combine
it
the
could
two.
be. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, yeah. So I don't know if you've ever looked at our social media. I get a little dramatic with the pictures on there because I feel like I'm so proud to make a beer that can have a foam that stays.
Yes.
And I love that. And people are like, why would you ever do that? And I'm like, we have some customers that talk about stuff, or we've even had a Facebook comment like, you guys always pour these with really big foam. Is there a reason? And if you go back to like just cartoons, look at cartoons. When someone gets a beer in a cartoon, does it have foam or not? It's got big frothy foam. Like I feel like that's like the funnest part with a beer. That big foam, you get it, and it's like it's a beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how you differentiate it.
Yeah.
Then you take that first sip and you got the foam mustache. You know what you're drinking.
It's magic. It really is. I mean, it's a total experience. So yeah, with this one, it gets lagered at least 8 to 10 weeks.
So, and I asked this on the first one. I'll ask again on this one and probably the next one. What's the story behind the name?
The name on this one. So, in line with a lot of things outdoors, Arctos is the species name for the brown bear. So Ursus arctos.
Okay.
So I was looking up stories like in Bavaria, there's a mountains down there. They used to have the Eurasian brown bear. So it's their version of a grizzly.
Mm-hmm.
Our version in the United States, well, I should say this. The Eurasian brown bear is called Ursus arctos. Just the second Arctos is that's the Eurasian brown bear.
Okay.
The grizzly bear in the lower 48 is called Ursus arctos horribilis for reasons like meaning like horrible.
Yeah.
And it's mean as shit. Everybody knows that. Like you go to Yellowstone, that's why I don't think, people are like, oh yeah, I like going to Yellowstone. Like black bear, they're like big raccoons. They can be scrappy. They can be mean if you pick on them or you're trying to like play with their garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Like a grizzly bear is literally like if you're in Yellowstone and you see a dead elk,
Yeah.
slowly proceed far away from the dead elk because a grizzly bear definitely is there. And it will normally, like when you read these stories about people getting attacked by grizzly bears, it's because they were near, like sometimes the ranchers they had areas where they would dump their cows that die.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like most recently as the grizzly bear is moving out, which I think is a good thing. So the grizzly bear's on its way out and it's finding like, holy shit, there's a bunch of dead cow here.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is mine.
Mm-hmm.
So then a hunter's walking through on a hiking trail or something. And the grizzly thinks that it's trying to get the dead cows too.
Right.
That's normally what happens is when people are getting attacked by grizz, they're either like solo riding a mountain bike fast down a trail and the grizz just doesn't know any better. It's like, I got to get that. Or there's a dead animal kill and it's just trying to protect it.
And it thinks you're trying to fuck with its leftovers.
Yeah.
And then you think like, well, up in Alaska, they don't do that. It's like, cause they've got miles full of salmon that they don't even give a shit about you or the dead elk. They're just eating salmon,
Yeah. Although I've seen the Grizzly Man documentary. They will give a fuck.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They definitely will. They will eat you eventually.
Yeah.
They'll be like, you're pretty cool, but damn. Like,
You just made one wrong misstep or I'm lazy today.
yes. Turn your back.
Yeah. You seem less fast than the fish. I don't know.
Yeah.
Give it a try.
I read an article and I feel like this ties into the conservation aspect. I believe in a wild world where we can find ways to live together with nature instead of just us as mankind. We can conquer all the animals. We can take them down. We figured that out. So in Europe, they still have it. So they had one brown bear that was spotted in the Bavarian mountains. And like the political leaders were like, anybody that kills it, you get like a reward,
Oh.
and like, cause they want it, they don't want them there. Cause they're not easy to live around. I don't live around them. We live here in Pennsylvania. We don't have, we have black bear, but they're certainly not brown bear. They are different. So I took that as like, it was like that kind of really tied into it because this Bavarian mountains, this is like Munich, south of Munich lager country, kind of tied into something that I don't feel, it's not like a passion of mine, but I think about it, how can we find ways to coexist with things that want to basically eat us,
Right.
And we still have to choose to live with
and
them.
live with them. And
Yeah.
I think if you talk to a lot of people in that Montana, Wyoming, Utah, maybe not so much Utah, but Idaho,
Yeah.
you're going to see a lot of mixed, results on it. It's a challenge, especially for ranchers. But so that's the name. That's the reason behind the Arctos.
Okay.
part
Right
of the
on,
name.
though. Yeah.
What about the 12 Plato?
The 12 Plato. So that's a Czech thing. They always rate beer basically starting gravity. So brewing, what you start with, it's like your potential, the amount of available sugars you have for fermentation that your yeast will consume. So it's 12 degrees. So it's like for home brewers, it's like a 1050.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Hence the 5% ABV.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, and like it's funny because there's breweries in America that have started adopting that as well. Like I believe Notch
Notch definitely did.
Yeah, Notch does that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple other ones, and it's just like, but it's not necessarily telling you what style it is. It's just like 5 degree, 4 degree,
Yeah.
8 degree. Oh, could be something. 10 degree. Who knows?
Yep.
You guess. Maybe it's a Doppelbock. Up to you.
Yeah.
Every beer is an adventure.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something Adam and I have never learned. We always did it with our little hydrometer.
Yeah.
And just, okay, those numbers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do the math.
Yeah. We're basement brewers. Proud of it.
Nice. That's great.
So, and that does lead me into the next part of this, the beginning. The beginning of
Yeah.
Stick City, way before you open the doors, put in the tanks and everything like that. Where did you get started with beer?
You know, that would have been back in the early 90s when I was like 7, 8 years old. My dad came back from a trip in Europe,
Okay.
and he was working for a German company based out of here, kind of near Zelienople. So they took him over there to show like their plants that what they were doing. It was a vinyl extrusion. They do like the windows and door frames in vinyl. They make the pieces for it. So he was over there, and he's drinking all these like great lagers. And then it was even in that trip they went up to England, so he's drinking like, you know, dark mild. That's why a lot of our beers, I feel like, you know, the way that he talked about them when I was a kid, I'm like, we're brewing those today. So, you know, he's drinking low ABV, you know, beer engine pulled flat beer in England, and nice high Alpine. He was in Austria for a bit too. So he got to try these lagers. He came home and he was like, I can't get any of this stuff. There's a local bar that would have an import night, and you'd be drinking like Smithwick's or something.
Yeah.
Botting things. He would
Barely passable.
Yeah, he would go there and do that. Yeah. Or like Bass Pale Ale,
Oh, yeah.
you know. So he would go do that. But then he got into homebrewing, and it was Country Wines down here in Pittsburgh on Babcock Boulevard. I feel like there's a lot of people that got to start. I bet there are people that have breweries. I know The Alchemist is one. He worked there around the time that Dad was going there and getting ingredients and doing this stuff too.
And we got started with our sister store, South Hills Brewing. That's where
it.
we started.
Yeah, South Hills Brewing was. They were the same company. They ended up merging. So Country Wines. Yeah. So I remember driving down there as a kid, and he'd be getting ingredients or going to a class. He was Burtonizing water. I found some of the stuff out. Like I'm like. Because I still, whenever I started getting into homebrewing myself in 2009, 2010 with my brother, we kind of started dabbling with it again with his stuff. I'm pulling this out. I'm like, I'm reading these books. I'm like, Dad never did this. And I'm like, Burton salts? I'm like, he was treating this. He said there was some old lady down there who really knew her stuff. And so Dad was making some beer. So November of 94 is something that sticks out with us. Because that was when he made a brown ale, which is the inspiration behind Cabot Squatch, that my mother took a liking to. And so it was auto conditioned at the time. White Labs was just new at the time. Like you got them in the hard plastic vials.
Oh yeah,
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And you'd be dunking that stuff in. And so he made a brown ale in November of 94. And that was the point where my mom was like, this is good stuff. So we always talk about the November of 94 thing as the time that we basically started. So that's the unknowingly established November of 94.
Awesome.
Yep. It was like at that point that it took off. So
So it started with you just like the way other people would help under the engine, you would be helping at brew day.
yeah. So like I remember helping to bottle in the kitchen. We lived in town in Butler. In the kitchen, we'd be filling bottles with the thing you pushed down, it would gravity fill. And I remember him being like, when that stopper's on there, he's like, nobody touches that while it's fermenting. He'd be like, my friends and I would be like, we gotta touch that. Yeah. Like, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Yeah. It's bubbling. The smells were very intense for young kids. Like whenever he would always do partial mash. So it would be extract and, grain sack. That was just, at the time, it wasn't like you had a whole lot of option.
Right.
But he at least knew to do enough with that. But he made a lot of beers with your Fuggles and Kent Golding and those sorts of things. There wasn't really like Cascade maybe, but there wasn't a whole lot of that.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great. When did you take off and start like kind of brewing on your own? Like
That was at 2009, 2010 time frame.
Yeah.
You know, getting into that hop chase, we're like, we can make one, you know? And my brother and I made a big Imperial IPA with Dad, and I think it ended up being like 9 or 10%. We got smoked off that thing, and it was bitter. Like we loaded that sucker.
Do you remember what your first true blue recipe was that you made on your own? That is, you could consider your recipe?
Maybe not my recipe, but I was trying to do a Bell's Too Hard to Clone, and I think this was the moment where I was like, okay, there's more to this. I was somewhat smart enough to not use chlorinated water. So I'd buy bottled water. And so you make a batch of beer. And Bell's was like, it was a BYO magazine recipe. And I still have it because I'm like, I love how that worked. I think it was when Bell's was not, like the Two Hearted was not an IPA, and it was lower alcohol. And they used a lot of like aromatic malt, you know, like a Munich malt type of a thing. And it was an interesting grist because it would have pale ale barley, like an English pale ale, and then a little bit of like a regular two-row barley pale ale, or pale malt, I guess you could say, aromatic malt, and maybe some Vienna sometime. I can't remember. Or a little bit of Crystal 15. I remember fighting, like, where do I find Crystal 15? I can only get 10 and 20. Breeze doesn't make 15. So then I was like, why don't I blend 10 and 20? You know? But anyways, yeah. So I make this beer, all Centennial, dry hop it. Then I'm like, it's good, you know, but I'm like, it's certainly not Bell's Too Hearted. And this was Bell's Too Hearted back in the early 2010s. Whenever I'd go pick it up at Vicini's for $26 a case, you know, they would sell it basically wholesale. And it was so good. It's still so good now, but it wasn't what it was then. And so I was like, okay, there's obviously something more here. And I felt like that was the moment where I was like, there's got to be something. Like, get into the details of why. Like, it was a drinkable beer, but it wasn't like that.
Right.
It doesn't have that balance and that pop.
It didn't go over the edge.
Yeah. So it was that time frame, and that was probably around that like 2010 time frame.
Right on. Awesome.
Was there a beer or a recipe where after you had kind of gotten into a rhythm and stuff like that, where after the beer recipe and you kind of figured out, okay, I know what I'm doing and I am making good beer, but now it's time to go to the next level, you know, make a go of it on a professional level? Yeah.
So that was what, you know, whenever my brother and I were talking with, you know, it was always a family thing. We would have brainstorming meetings in that. It was all in the early 2010s. And we would have brainstorming meetings, go over things. That's where we found the Stick City name. I think that was around 2012 that we came up with that. And actually, it wasn't until, you know, it was always something, people always talk about it. There were two events. So in 2015, the state passed a law to allow manufacturing breweries like what we have to sell over the bar as long as you had things, and somebody, I don't know how they did this, it's literally written into Pennsylvania law, the code. It's like manufacturers that hold basically a G license can serve over the bar if and only if they offer some sort of food. And then it's like parentheses, I.E, comma, chips, pretzels, snack type stuff. And I'm like, they wrote that into law. Like, nobody's ever seen this shit in law. Like, I.E, nobody, the grammar, you're not even really allowed to use that. For people that are like, I got yelled at once, right? You know, a technical writer gave me, he's like, that doesn't mean anything. Nobody uses it. I'm like, okay, so maybe it's not right. But it was in the PA code for brewing. And so what that happened 2015. And it was also, which is why I think we have a very favorable environment in Pennsylvania. One thing alcohol related with the brewing, which is, I think that was really the spur, because you can have a manufacturing license. In Butler County here, a liquor license costs $300,000.
Wow.
Allegheny County, they're about 70 or so. Yeah. But Butler County, you know, was growing. Still, I think, I haven't seen most recent census data, but Cranberry in this 228 corridor, so there's more people. There's a fixed amount of liquor licenses. So the price just goes through the roof.
Oh, wow.
And Mario Lemieux bought half of them in town from up in Butler. He bought them for the Lemieux Center down there, like for all those restaurants that are there for that development.
Yeah.
That's what really, that really helped drive the price up too. La Magnifique, he's getting all of our liquor license here in Butler County. But it's one of those things that it's one part of our liquor code that works well for folks like us. We're all self-funded. We don't have outside investment. It's just our family, and we're able to do this. It's really cool. That part of it's really cool.
Right on.
That's interesting. Just because I always assumed like the outskirts had cheaper liquor licenses.
Not Butler County.
Yeah, just
$300,000. Can you think that? Like,
yeah.
So people literally will be like, okay, I spent $150,000 on a brew system. I pay 10 or 15 on a license, and then it's like I got a brewery and I can run my restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I have to pay $300,000 for a liquor license, and I can sell all the local spirits and all the other breweries, that are around. So,
And that's the stuff that a lot of people are going to be looking for.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, it worked out for the best for you, though. So
Yeah, it's nice. Yep.
I would say it worked out for us as well.
Well, yeah,
Indeed.
Today it's worked out for us. So, just some of the things we like to question, wonder about how things are going in the brewery. What does the brewery space sound like? Like, we like to know, what do people listen to? We know a lot of people.
Oh, music wise?
What's your soundtrack?
Yeah, we know a lot of people in the brewing industry. They like to listen to heavy metal. There's a lot of heavy metal.
There is a
goes
lot of
on.
heavy metal in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Or even a little ska or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't seem like that when we walked in here, and that's not what we were hearing. So
there's a lot of Americana, folk, bluegrass. We have a bi-weekly bluegrass jam session that's finally back like what it was before the pandemic, where a jam session is just where people organically come together and they play. And it's stringed instruments only, but if someone wants to bring a dang box drum in, they'll let them in. And but don't bring a box drum. Bring a stringed instrument. We got neighbors. But so their local guy by the name of Roy, he's put that together. I met him very early on in this, and he is a bluegrass picker. So we have some really awesome folks that come in, and it's basically a time for them to be selfish to their playing.
Mm-hmm.
And we just get to observe it. And it's awesome. It's awesome to watch that. So it's complete. It's sometimes it's just like, it's very energy based. So sometimes it's just the energy's not there. But then sometimes you're like, everyone's silent and they're just clicking at one time. So you get to see music happen naturally. So it's a lot of that Americana, folk. There's some bluegrass. We'll go back into, it can be all over the spectrum. We'll play Frank Sinatra. We'll play albums, So a lot of times we will play albums at a time.
Okay.
Over the speakers. Yeah. So it's more in that sort of.
Right on.
Yeah.
What are you listening to when there's nobody here and it's just you brewing?
That is what I listen to a lot. So maybe that's why it's on the speakers. But I feel like that's part of our brand. There's a lot of Grateful Dead that we play too. Okay. So which is the brewers like Grateful Dead a lot. Yeah.
Oh yes.
So I feel very connected with that part of the brewing scene. The ones that are the Grateful Dead listeners, I'm into that.
Right on.
Yeah.
So that's right in line with nature conservation and
and the Westphalia Outback.
That's mine. Yeah, my wife and I got that, and it's a synchro too. It's just sweet. There's a local. Yeah, so it's 4-wheel drive. Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
1986.
That makes more sense now because we talked beforehand about you have a Sprinter 4x4 out there.
We have that too.
Yeah.
So we
have two beers. I didn't know where
Synchro came from that, and actually the color. So mine is the 1986. It's the first year for the Synchros with the camper top. There weren't a lot of these that came, especially in the brown color, which it's called Murrian brown proper, but most people refer to it as shit brown. But when you get it in the woods, it hides. It almost has a matte patina because it's all original paint on it, and the front's all peppered. It lived most of its life in Florida.
Oh, okay, that's a good pickup then.
Yeah. So
Swamp truck.
Yep. So like the front's all peppered with like chips and stuff. So, but it started out in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. This is the Synchro, and then it moved down to Florida. It was there for most of its life, and then it moved out to Bend, Oregon in 2017, and then I picked it up 2020.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So except for that short period in Ohio, that
Yeah.
thing has left a nice rust-free life.
It is, and so it hasn't seen any of the salt here. And garage kept through the winter. It's 95,000 original miles on it.
I think it's a
It
peach.
runs. I had to do a bunch of. So imagine getting a car that was born in 1986, basically, and then it was like well maintained. But when I get it at 95,000 miles, it needed the 95,000 mile stuff like water pumps, distributors, all this type of maintenance work. When I got it, it was running fine, but it would like miss really hard. And I was like, oh shit, what do I do? Like my wife's going to kill me because they're not super cheap, but it wasn't. I got a really, really good price on that for what it is. I could definitely get more for it now. Like as this 2020 stuff, all that, everything's expensive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, people see that as a house that you have there.
I know. I'm like, at least we got a house, right?
So you take it out to LA, you can put $250,000 on it
I
right
know.
now.
So yeah, we had it shipped over here, but yeah, it's a sweet ride. We just had it out with my son, my wife and I, my son, 10-month-old son was in it. That was just last week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, out on the other side of State College.
That's fantastic.
Oh, nice.
He loves sleeping in that thing, believe it or not. So if my wife gets the bottom bed with him, still has like a bassinet sleeper that has the hard bottom and everything. And I get the,
You get to go top side.
the pop-up side. It's like my own bedroom. She'll be talking down. Mandy will be talking down there. I'm like, huh? Like, I'm in my room, Mom. Leave me alone.
Can't hear you. Over here. When you're on the other side of State College, like, did you go to Shy Bear or were you
We tried to go. So we were there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So most things were closed. We had just done the Golden Age Lagerfest. That was just a couple weeks ago. So we met the folks from Elk Creek Cafe, which I love. That's in Milheim. So we were camping real close to there. So I got to meet the owner there. I'm like, well, I'm going to come up. We just weren't able to make it. And plus it was Wednesday. They were opening at 4. And I didn't want to press in there before they were open.
Right.
But we went to Otto's.
Okay.
Otto's
Yeah.
pub.
Yeah.
So they're open 7 days a week. So we went there Monday. It was pouring down rain on Monday when we went out. Like, I'm not about to take a 10-month-old and my wife and sit in a car in the rain in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service. That's not how you do these trips on repeat. I want to do these again. So we hung out in State College. They have a Wegmans out there. I love Wegmans. No disrespect to Giant Eagle, but Wegmans, they're better.
It's a good Wegmans.
Yeah.
It's a
I
good
like it.
Wegmans.
I like it.
Yeah.
It is a great Wegmans. I love it. So I was all through that store. And so we hung out there and went to Otto's for lunch.
Right on.
Nice.
Until the rain stopped. And then we went in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service.
So I guess we should get back to beer.
Yeah.
We kind of veered off from
can.
beer. But are there any beers that you want to brew or want to get into that you haven't had a chance to yet?
I would like to do some of this mixed fermentation stuff.
What is that? What is
Like-
mixed fermentation?
Like introducing some wild yeast and bacteria. So we
Okay.
do a yearly Saison that I feel like I'm working this as its framework. And I like light colored Saison. So we make it's a very simple Pils malt, a little bit of malted wheat. I stick with like the noble hops.
Okay.
So this time I used Willamette. I think there was another one in there. Saws, I think. So I like to do that. So it's like a good framework. We use a clean Saison yeast. And it turns out really nice. We package it in bottles when I remember to keep it a little bit more flat before, because it's hard to fill a bottle with 1 volume CO2 in it and then bottle condition it. But we do something unique with that. So I'd like to get more into the mixed culture stuff for sure.
So
Yeah.
with the you're talking about going into Saisons, either a Saison or a farmhouse ale. Has any of that ever been made at the original Stick City?
I did brew a couple beers out there, and that would be something that would be nice to be able to get cultivate some wild yeast from there.
Or do an open fermentation?
That would be real cool. Yeah, I would love to get more into that.
Okay.
Our facility, as you can see, you're integrated in with it.
Yes.
I feel like it'd be, and I don't have a way to get different hoses and stuff. I really want to keep clean beers clean.
Right.
I've definitely tried some beers where I'm like, not in our region at all, but where I'm like, I feel like there might be a little bit of like some barnyard in that, you know, which maybe not bad, but it's certainly not, you know,
You're not
pale
prepared
lager
for
or
it.
something or IPA. You know, you want barnyard and IPA. But I just get too nervous about that with our space because it's so open.
Mm-hmm.
So we just sticking to the clean stuff for now.
I mean, that's
that
not,
would be like to get into.
that's not a bad system.
Right. Right.
Maybe you just need like a shed out in that field.
Yes.
And then you have a cool ship in the shed.
We just drive out. We can get one of those things. We can tote it out there, pump it in hot. It'd probably still be hot by the time we get there.
Right.
So, yeah. That'd be great.
You just leave it out that shed and then you come back for it.
Yes. Yes.
And speaking of coming back to beers,
Yeah.
what do you say we come back to this Arctos 12 Plato?
Yeah.
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 We didn't really talk much about how it tasted at the top of the segment.
We just
kind of
went into the conversation.
Yeah, we just kind of let it go. But as a person who is not a big fan of Pilsner, but I did have a Pilsner Urquell, my first one, like not too long ago.
Oh, nice.
Not too long ago, I had one. This definitely sticks out, and I can say it's definitely because you use just those straight up Czech Saaz hops.
Mm-hmm.
This has that little bit of spiciness to it that is definitely so connected to the Pilsner Urquell. But
It's like boom.
yeah,
And Pilsner Urquell's way more bitter than this too.
Yeah, it's way more bitter, but that one I like because it's more flavorful. I think anytime people hear Pilsner, they automatically think about Bud and
Yes.
those
Like
are
blandy.
really
Like,
super
yeah.
bland, super crackery, and those are the ones I hate. But anytime I've had something that goes out of its way to try to put as much flavor as possible into it, yeah, I actually enjoy. And like I enjoy this one.
Awesome.
That hop profile is so important to imparting flavor.
Oh yeah.
So,
Indeed.
but I appreciate it. So yeah.
Yeah. And in the first segment, we were talking about the Golden Boy, how that's a good beer to bring, kind of a gateway beer to bring people over into the IPA side. This is a really good beer to do that for the macro drinker.
It does. And it kind of breaks my heart at the same time because like we'll have events here in town and I'm like, Arctos, like I look at this as like this big process and like this care and this long lagering and I'm on it and I'm like the foam. And then we'll have an event in town and people are like, what do you have that's like Mick Ultra? And the staff's like, well, obviously if I'm going to pick something
Right.
on the list, it's Arctos and I'll just watch. And those are normally people that don't want the foam on top. And I just see Arctos going and like literally I'll watch all of that Arctos go to people that, and I'm like, but they love it because they're like, oh yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, there's like, as the brewer in me that's like this, it's like my piece of art, my baby. I'm like, like, it's gone. It took 8 weeks to get this point. Like,
See, he wants it for himself.
Yes.
He wants to give it to the other brewers to get the compliments. He wants the appropriate appreciation from them. He doesn't want to give it to people like me who are just like, and which I wouldn't even ask for your Mick Ultra. I would just like, give me something hoppy. Give me something.
Yep.
Give me that brown. Give me a stout.
Yes.
But you look at it the other way, you see 10 of those going out. If you get 1 or 2 coming back in and say, I really like that. What else you
it
got?
works. Yeah, it works.
It sets
it
the
does.
hook.
Yep. Yeah, because they definitely note it as different. It's a hoppy beer. There's a lot of hops in that.
Yeah.
There's more hops in that on the hot side than there's is any of our IPAs. So
nice.
yeah.
Yeah. Bottom line, good beer.
Yeah, it's definitely worth all the work you go through to get it.
It is. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
But yeah, that is a lot of work.
And we're willing to appreciate it.
Yes.
We won't just send it out the door.
Right.
I can appreciate it for what it is and for all the work that goes into
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
It's still not going to be my favorite, but
Sure.
And that's okay.
that's okay. But it's still like I'm definitely going to choose this over a lot of other shits.
And they're very unique. I mean, even the yeast we use is more lager tasting. I guess if there's a way to put that, it's not like the cleanest lager yeast. So it definitely, you gotta like lager flavor.
Right.
And like, there are people that just don't like lager flavor. They want more of that ale, hoppy, citrus flavor, you know?
Yeah.
So to each
Unfortunately,
their own.
you've got that covered too.
We do. Yep.
Yeah. It is always important to point out when somebody just has everything covered. And right now you do because you have
We're doing pretty good. I try.
Yeah, and I think the only thing you're missing is a Rauch beer, and that's about it. So.
Hint.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do try. I try my best to keep a good variety for sure. We can't always keep lagers on because people are like, I want
that's
lager.
going to be, yeah.
We do have our so I've been, I think this year probably better than any, excuse me. We have the Uncle Bob's, our American lager coming out.
Okay.
And we do it in 30 packs.
Oh, right.
Really?
We're the only ones that I know of. And it's a properly sized cardboard box 30 pack. We do it in 12-ounce cans.
When
Yeah.
is that coming out?
That should be out in 2 weeks.
You might see me in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's sweet. Now, I like to imagine the way that I would see, like, Budweiser. Those are all high gravity brewed beers. So they brew like 30% Budweiser, and then it goes to these facilities and they dilute it down with carbonated water. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but high gravity brewing is how those places make money. Your brew house is really small. You boil the, I don't know if they boil the crap out. They make a really strong beer. It ferments strong. They dilute it down. This is a full strength, long lagered American lager. So when you pour it in, you get all that nice foam and everything that we do. It's 8 to 10 weeks again for that one.
Every bit of it is beer. None of it is Nesquik.
Yes. Yes. It's not a high gravity brewed beer.
Yeah.
And I always feel like that's how I imagine, like, if I could go, I always try to think if I could go to the store and get what I would want, like, as a selfish buyer.
As we all are from time to time.
Right. Yeah. So like what you want yourself. I'm like, I just want, and it has no hops in that. It's just bittering charge. So it's truly like drinks like American lager, but it's 100% barley. I used to put corn in it. I got away from the corn just because it kills my head retention. And I feel like, if I want it, I'm thinking just for myself on that.
You want it to look like the cartoons.
Yes, if you want it to look like beer in cartoons, which is, it's like, have you ever looked at any cartoon and seen beer with no head on it? No one would even know what the heck it is. They know it's beer because it's got foam frothing over the top. So yeah, it's long lagered in a 12-ounce can. If you pour it into a glass, you can slow pour it and it'll make a real crispy top, foam on it.
Right on.
I love that.
You might be seeing me in a couple of weeks.
It's sweet.
Yeah. I think I know what Adam's going to buy himself for his birthday. So.
Yes.
That's the excuse I'm going to use.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
So let's take a quick break. Let's get another one poured up, and we're gonna release Steve.
Sure.
He's gonna do something. I don't know what.
Yay.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Joe Tutorial.
Whoa, Matt, this isn't an episode, it's a trailer.
Well, what the hell's a trailer, Adam?
It's where we tell people what they can expect from our podcast, Decaying with the Boys.
Well, they can expect to hear us talk shop on pro wrestling, craft beer, horror movies, and pop culture, like Britney Spears' creepy father and stuff like that.
We've literally never talked about Britney, but we do take our shots at everything else you said.
Well, then I guess I can also tell them they can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and Anchor FM.
And don't forget to find us on all social media at Decaying WTB.
Cheers.
It's episode 250 of the Hop Nation USA podcast, and we're still here down at Stick City with Brewer Nick, and Adam's here as well.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah.
I like to say we're up at Stick City,
We're up at Stick City.
or perhaps even over at Stick City.
We're a bunch of up ears. Up ears.
bunch of mup ears.
Mup ears.
That's right.
Up there.
Mup ear for the weekend.
But yeah, we're at Stick City. We're enjoying Stick City beers, and of course, we're going to be drinking a third Stick City beer. Kind of. This falls out of Steve's rules, but I'm willing to break my own rules.
Round up, Steve. It's for the good of the show.
We have a new beer, though, and I'll let Nick introduce it.
Cedar and Slate. It's an English dark mild at 3.2%.
Barely beer.
I know.
This is soft drink for children.
But the funny thing is, you
I'm editing that out. You don't tell the audience.
Yeah, so it's just it's a classic English dark mild. Some floor malted Maris Otter from England. All the ingredients are English except the hops this time. We went with Oregon grown Willamette hops, which are near and dear to my heart. I don't know how that became, but I love Willamette hops when they can impart. We actually use them in lagers too.
I mean, I don't think Adam is too far off with his care and love for Fuggles.
Fuggles would be beautiful in this. I just don't. I haven't found a good supplier for English hops that didn't like the. Again, we've talked earlier about like the pellet grind and like the quality. Even like East Kent Golding, I've gotten some. I'm like, this is magic, and then I got it, and I'm like, this is like it's like a papery pellet with baler twine in it and stuff. I haven't found a good source of that. So need to make a trip to England. Yeah.
Start living that Fug life.
Yeah. Fuggles is a magical hop. When you get it, great. It's, Willamette's based off of a lot of these hops. So Fuggles, East Kent, I don't know what the lineage is, but a lot of our hops in the U.S. are based off of Fuggles. Like you look like, I don't know if this is true, but they're like Citra is like Fuggles and some other English shit together. And then they're like, wow, Citra, I don't know what the lineage is.
You hear that, America?
I don't know if that's the lineage on it, but I've seen some of these hops and it's like Fuggles is a parent.
It came up on an episode not too long ago, like within the last 3 weeks, I think, that we were talking about it was a hop blend for something.
Yes.
What the fuck? It was a hop blend for a charity beer. Oh, Ales for ALS.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So in their hop blend, they had like a hop that we'd never heard of. And I looked that hop up, and like one of its parentages, it was like 3 different hops, and one of them was Fuggle.
I believe it. Yeah. Fuggles is like the parent. It's like the guy that got around,
Yeah.
Like, damn, that Fuggles again. He got me. Like,
Everywhere.
now I'm in hazy IPAs. Like, damn.
Fuggle is a cornerstone of craft beer in this country.
That's a fact.
So just a remark on this beer. Looking at it, it is a nice dark. I'm trying to think of a good brown word, but I don't want to say brown. I want to use my thesaurus words. But it's nowhere near as dark as like a porter. You can definitely see the light striking around the sides of it. It gives it a nice red maroon hue almost, and then the tight white head is almost like frothy cappuccino in a way.
Yeah.
What was the name of the color of your van?
Yeah, Murrian Brown.
There you go.
Yep.
No, I'm not.
There you go.
People conflate that with shit.
Yeah, I know. Man, we already said the shit thing. I was like, does he mean the real name or what everyone calls it?
Yeah.
When you call the VW dealership.
Yeah. You got the shit brown van. Like, shit.
I'm not trying to conflate this beer with shit.
Right.
But yeah, it is a nice like tan, beige, slightly yellowed, but it is a good contrasting looking beer.
Yes.
To taste it though, there is a lot of flavor in there, even though it is soft drink for children.
3-2 beer.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. It is proper for Mormons and children and dogs.
Yes, that is indeed the truth.
Wait, no, don't feed this to dogs.
No, I'm pretty sure dogs could go okay. You just can't feed them full hops or pellets. That's bad.
But I am enjoying this beer. We kind of talked about the technical prowess that was required to make this beer. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, it's very hard because you're trying to brew a beer that you have hundreds of years of brewing to make these types of beers. I'm assuming that's how long it is. I'm going to guess it's close to that. I mean, at least the process to get to English dark mild, low ABV, dark, but still shall have body, aroma, flavor, and balance because it's supposed to be a sessionable beer. But with that dark characteristic. So I feel like it's really hard to get dark characteristics in the beer, these roasted malts, without bringing in some level of astringency. So there's some things that I do in my wacky brain that are like, how can I capture all of these dark notes without also the coincident astringency? Especially now you took away all of the way that you brew. Like if you want to make a 10% stout, you can put as much roasted barley in as you want, even if it's a full, 75 to 80% attenuation with 8 to 10% alcohol, the roasted barley won't come across as astringent.
Right. Or if you really want to build it out, you could just puff it up with like oats.
Oats,
and
yep.
like, the way a lot of stouts and porters are going.
Oh, yeah.
You can just throw a bunch
sure.
of oats in and get a whole bunch of body and mouthfeel from that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so this is just, like I said, floor malted maris otter, and a little blend of some darker crystal malts and some roasted barley.
Yeah. Beers like this and the Arctos 12 degree are just like things that like you have to walk the line.
Yes.
It's hard. Yeah, these are the ones that I
fail. You can win or fail on those, and you don't have much room to fuck around.
You really don't. So I'm always so nervous. And this is the second time we made this beer, and it was originally, I think it was 3.6. I'm like, I always saw dark mild. I'm like, the magic is when you get low threes. So I was sweating bullets. Really, I mean that like wholeheartedly. Like it's hard. I want to represent. I want to be able to be a brewer that can try at least to think that they can get close to a representation of what they would be naturally. Now ours are off in the sense of served at 38 degrees, carbonated at about 2.5 volumes. That's not traditional. Normally these are like 1.5 volume beers served warm. Well, in the United States, we're not allowed to have a walk-in cooler above 42. So everything has to be cold. And, so it's one. So you get it. You just let it warm up a little bit and off gas. You got it. But we have a local guy who's from England, and he came in. I'm like, he's, people from England, they're opinionated, and they'll tell you what they think.
Oh, what you got going on here, mate?
Yeah. Yes. So he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna laugh.
we did a real ale once where we tapped it, and it was with our English best bitter. And I did the proper thing, and we tapped it and poured it off, and I could see him out there, and he takes a drink of the mug and he just cranks half of it down. That was a 4.2%. He cranks half of it down. He looks at me and he just gives me this big thumbs up, and he's like, "That's pretty good." And I'm like,
these Yanks are on something.
Yeah. So he approved. So I'm like, yeah. So we had the English dark mild too. He liked it. So maybe he's just being nice to me.
So that's all you really need is like you get a thumbs up from a British guy.
Yes.
And you get Czechs drinking here all day smoking ciggies. So
that's the best. And we even shared a beer with the British guy on the 4th of July in good.
There you go. Good faith.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait, are we allowed to celebrate the 4th of July with you? And he's like, I've been here for how many years? I'm like, welcome.
That's right.
Yeah. So I will say, like, on the nose of this beer, you get a lot of that caramelly smells. Like, there's a lot of caramel on the nose. I'm going to let it warm up more to get more of the kind of character from the beer.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely benefits from temperature.
Yeah. But my suggestion is anybody listening, if you come in, order 2 beers at once, and then you drink like an IPA while you wait for the dark mild to warm up.
That's actually a great idea. You allow it to off gas a bit and warm up. That's great advice.
It'll be ready for you.
Yeah.
It likes 45, I think.
Yeah.
You don't even have to fight the people at the bar.
Right.
You're ready to go.
It's right there.
Yeah. You got 2 drinks ready for you. You just got 1 waiting for you. Just let it go.
Pull the next hour right out of the quiver.
Yeah.
Boom, ready to go. So I've asked it twice. I got to ask a third time. What's the story on the name?
The name. So this goes back. My dad and I grew up. He started fly fishing when I was in about the 5th grade, and I started fly fishing when I was at that same time with him. And so there's 2 streams in Pennsylvania that are freestone streams. If you're curious, just Google freestone stream. You'll see what that means. It's just like a water runoff goes over a rock base. It's a runoff type stream off of the mountainside. And they're full of wild trout or natives. There's some brook trout. So there's wild trout are ones that weren't native to here. They didn't develop here through evolution. Wild trout were transplanted. So wild trout are brown trout and rainbow trout. Native trout are brook trout, which are technically a char. They're not even a trout. But let's not get into those.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast, and I could bore you with it. And but I have to say that because the comments would be, he called a brook trout a trout, and it's really a char. And yes, you're correct. Brook trout are char. It's the only native trout we have, and it's actually a char. So yeah, Slate Run and Cedar Run. There's the Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania. I don't know if you guys have heard that. Right coming out of that Grand Canyon, south of it, of Pennsylvania, on Pine Creek, there's two streams that come in, Cedar Run and Slate Run. And they're just historically known. Excellent, wild, native. There's a combo of all those fish in there, except rainbows maybe, living in them. So the name just kind of fits. You know, you kind of get cedar and slate tones with a dark mild. I was just coming back from a trip there in August of 2020 with a friend of mine who's actually helping out here now. And it's a place, again, that's like near and dear to the whole Stick City energy. There's special places that we have here in Pennsylvania that are completely natural and wild. Even in an area where all the trees were ripped of all of our mountains, they were just completely bare, and it recovered and survived. And they just, places where you are finding where trout naturally reproduce. It's a pretty special place. So Cedar and Slate is that. Cedar Run and Slate Run are some magical places, and that name just fit a beer like a dark mild. Yeah.
Wow. And it rolls off the tongue very nicely.
Cedar and Slate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Well, we're going to move on to our segment, and everybody who listens to the show in this past should know that, third segment, that's our game segment. We're not doing any heavy lifting. We're 2 beers in and we're drinking a third. Let's not push it.
We've gotten smart about this over the years.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Yeah. But, we already mentioned it's our 250th episode. That's a milestone. And something we haven't done in a long time is a game that started really early on. And it kind of helped the audience get acclimated to us. But we called the game the Pair Down. And essentially that's where we take kind of favorite things, like things we like to do, hobbies, things like that. And then we'll just pair a beer with it. So, Nick, for you, I think, the audience has come to realize that you're an outdoorsy type.
Yeah.
You have a lot of hobbies outdoors. You like camping, fishing, things like that. So we're going to kind of go through, we're going to throw you prompts. You're going to tell us what beer you would pair with that activity.
Does it have to be my or our beer?
No.
Okay, it can be any beer.
Any beer. I mean, and you can even go as far as saying a beer that you would brew for that activity.
Oh, nice.
But I do want you to try to stay away from Stick City beers.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Anything that's your favorite, something that you would go with. So let's just continue down the fishing train and go right to that. What is your fly fisherman beer? What do you keep in your waders?
Oh, so that would be, I went through a phase with Genesee, not the cream ale.
Really?
Just regular Jenny.
Okay.
I still would. I love that beer. Or a close second would be Straub. But I generally like the Straub in the brown bottle. I'm a brown bottle guy, not a green bottle guy. 3 MBT's not my thing. But some people like it, the skunkiness of a green bottle. But so those would be, I go back to some trips that I've done with my dad, and we like to do the small stream style fly fishing, which are like Cedar and Slate would be a prime example of these, where you are just puddle jumping up this small stream, fishing along. And when you get there, you're not taking a cooler in or any ice. You got some Jennies thrown in your backpack. And so when you get there, these creeks normally run pretty cool, at least sub 60s or 65 degrees or less, even in summer, because they've got a heavy tree canopy. So you stuff them under the rocks, right? So you stuff them under the rocks, you fish your way up. You have one to have when you get up there that might be a little bit warm. And then on the way back down, you're always like, oh, I know where I put it. Sometimes I've been like, I can't find it. So we're either left, I'm like, I could have swore I put it under this rock. So I'm like, either someone else got it or I totally lost this beer. And someone will get it.
You turn into a squirrel.
Yeah. I have found cans of beer before. Cans. I would never do it with bottles because they're definitely leaking. I have found somebody else's stashed beer that had been in there for a while, and I have opened it up and at least taken a couple sips just because they were looking for that. But so yeah, those types of beers, I guess, things into that realm, like that American lager.
The opposite of an Easter egg hunt is a trout row hunt, and that's where you find. And that's where you start finding cans of Jenny.
Yeah, any stream I've been on, they might be one or two, or something. At least that, or Straub, or even PBR. I've been. That would be another one that would be into that.
That's Nick's Johnny Appleseed lore.
Yeah, wherever I was, you might be able to find a free beer underneath a rock.
And some say he went across America just planting Jenny cans in every brook and stream.
So I've got one, and this one I am going to request a particular style that you would brew. You have been selected to create the official beer for Pennsylvania State Parks. What beer are you going to brew?
I'm immediately thinking in the realm of a local ingredient sourced, which we're kind of doing that right now with one. But we did a benefit for PA Parks and Forests. But I'm going to try to use all local barley, make a pale ale. I want to be in that 5% range. Hop forward with Pennsylvania hops.
Okay.
Definitely. And I do that because I want people to actually... because there's, craft beer, there's still this hop forward approach to it. It'd be more in that hazier, yellow colored type of light colored pale ale. I want those people to be, who are into that thing, to try it and to see the message maybe. So yeah, that would be that.
Okay.
It'd be a pale ale with local
so it would
ingredients.
be good for those that are hopheads, and just as important is to get the message out as well.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Okay. I like that idea.
Yeah.
It'd wind up being like PA's version of Pseudo Sue, because that was brewed in conjunction with the Chicago Museum.
Yes.
This one would probably just be like a groundhog.
Yes, groundhog. Yes.
The PA Parks groundhog.
Yeah.
Pale ale.
I drink that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I was trying to think of something like, does he drink the shadow? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. I'll move on.
No, that's like that's an accompaniment stout. Phil
I was
Shadow.
going to say, yeah.
Yes.
Phil Shadow. Ooh.
That's a good one there.
Somebody write that down.
Yeah.
We want our cut, 5%.
Which CNC Malt does have a coffee roaster, and they have roasted barley before.
Nice.
So you could do this.
Smart.
This could be
Smart
done.
ideas. I think we need to make a trip.
Yeah, write that down.
Yeah, Brendan, we need some malts.
We need some roasted barley.
We have at least a homebrew thing that we have to show up
Yes.
for. That we haven't done a homebrewing yet.
I say
this
don't
year,
have to, get to.
The name is Custom and Craft. You can customize what you want. So you want it to be burnt, you want it to be light, the amber or brown, you can do it.
Yeah. He's a talented guy. He knows what's up. All right, I have another one for you. Obviously, you're in camping, and you've been camping in every form, I assume.
Mostly, I've never really done light style backpacking. I'm more of a go and be in place camper.
Okay.
So
Don't get to do nearly as much as I'd like now, and I probably daydream about it too much. But,
Adirondack shelters.
Yeah, that'd be so nice. The wind rustling right into your face while you're trying to sleep.
Cursing that you forgot to bring the tarp.
Yes.
So with that, though, I mean, I'm sure that you've had campfire breakfast, just one pan, everything in the same pan, potatoes, eggs, and meat, just all in the same pan, cooked over the campfire. What is the beer that goes with that?
I'm immediately out of brown ale. I think that's like a perfect, that or maybe an English style porter. I don't know of any particular brands that I would run with, but it'd be definitely brown ale for like a breakfast.
Right on. Right on. Any particular one you can think of? Anybody?
I can't think of one. Actually, I go back to some of these classics. I would love to say Newcastle, but Newcastle and the business of beer and alcohol changes things. It's not what it is now. So I'd hate for people to go out and drink it now because it's basically a colored Amstel. It really is. It really is. I mean, it just is. It's not. I remember it. This would have been like mid 2000, like between 2000 and 2010, where they were doing this marketing campaign, which is probably why they got bought out by, I think the Amstel people bought them or one of those, where it was like, if it's too heavy, your tongue's too weak kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Love that. So that would have been one. But so I'll just say Newcastle that was brewed in 2005.
That makes sense.
All right.
Not Newcastle that you get at the store today.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have fond memories of like 2008, 2009 Newcastle.
Yeah, but it probably was at the time when they're like, someone was like, oh, wow, they're really selling a lot of this brown ale. Let's buy it and just put color in the Amstel.
And this is how I know it got too popular, is because around that time, there was a strip club that did like $20 cup.
Okay.
And
Of Newcastle.
Well, no, it was like $20 cup, and they had mixed drinks and just like whatever is all you can drink.
Yeah.
And then they had one bar that had Bud Light and something else on. And then they had another bar that had Newcastle only.
Newcastle only.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is the craft import section. And you're like, Newcastle?
Yeah.
Like,
It was just like, there was only one tap. And it was just
city
attached.
is this in? This sounds like
McKee's
a kind
Rocks.
of a cool. I'm like, this sounds like a cool strip club. Where you're like, why am I at the bar?
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. What am I here for again?
It was just like, it was shitty well drinks and Bud Light and everything on one bar. And then just like at this other bar, there was nothing but Newcastle.
That's so
it was
bizarre.
the craziest thing.
So
but I was
hilarious.
like, I love Newcastle. It was at that time, I was like, I love Newcastle.
Yes.
But it's like, why is it so popular?
This place has everything.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh,
no,
man.
I can get behind that. But yeah, it definitely has. I've had Newcastles since then. And
It's not the same.
yeah, it doesn't fly.
Well, if you look on the label, Newcastle up on Tyne, like where it was made, it's like Holland or something.
Mhm.
It's not made there anymore. Sad way it goes.
Well, we'll just have to drink the good beer here.
Yeah. Cabasquatch.
And that's okay.
Yeah, there's plenty of fine brown ales that have since taken the place
Yes,
that you
true.
don't have to worry
And
about.
that was like the inspiration. Oh, so like, I guess another one that just immediately came to my mind, which was a lot of the inspiration behind Cabasquatch, was Moose Droll.
okay.
Yes. Yep.
Magic. So I did my first year of college in Montana in that 2005 time frame. And Moose Droll was like magic.
The first kit beer that we ever
It
made.
was the Moose Droll
Yep.
one.
There was, I think they called it Caribou Slobber.
Yeah,
was the
Caribou
knockoff.
Slobber, so,
yeah.
So Cabasquatch definitely has lineage from that exact recipe.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've changed some things, but
Sure, of course.
obviously. But it's lineage from that exact recipe. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
Caribou
think,
Slobber. Yeah.
yeah. I think almost everybody had to have done that one.
Mhm.
They do that one, and then they do like a red ale,
Yes.
and then
Yeah, red ale.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that's kind of a decision point of, am I into this or am I not into this?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's those styles are, I think they're hard to fuck up.
Yes.
Because they're not hop dependent.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
if you do an IPA straight out the box, there's a good chance you fuck that
Yeah.
one up.
Yeah. It'll be oxidized
Yeah.
and brown, and it shouldn't
Yeah.
be brown.
And there's definitely no way you're doing a lager out the
No.
box.
No, you shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't.
Yeah.
But fun fact, I still have the very first bottle of beer that we ever brewed.
Oh no shit.
Yep. I still have
How
it.
old is that?
10 years?
Wow.
It's in the trophy case.
Yeah, that
So-
can't be good.
In the
Oh,
same
don't
light as-
drink it. No, no.
Same light as that. My buddy that's working here, John, now, and so that's a whole other story. We've known each other since the 4th grade, and we, you go through life, high school, everything, college, you kind of get away, and then it was around 2010. I moved here to Seven Fields and like basically Cranberry, and he was looking for a place to live, so he came down and lived with me, and he has a camp up above Franklin on the river.
Okay. That's
Above
my
Oil-
neck of the woods.
Yeah, above Oil City, actually,
Okay.
on the river, Aaronsville, if anybody knows.
He knows. And
I
that's
know.
it.
You know Aaronsville?
Yep.
Yeah. So he's right there. And there was still a decent population of grouse 2010 to 2015 there. And we went to this place, Grouse Valley. I won't speak any more about where that was, even though the grouse aren't there anymore. So we bought these delirium tremens.
Oh,
And we
okay.
were like, well, either one of us that gets a grouse will drink a delirium tremens. He still has both bottles.
Oh wow.
We didn't hunt with dogs. So we were just off the cuff, and we've had our opportunities. He might have gotten one, but it was whenever it needed to be with it. We both needed to be there on the trip.
Right.
We still have these delirium tremens. Now he kept them refrigerated. So I'm like, you're delaying the aging by the refrigeration.
But-
He's like, do you think they're still any good? I'm like, there will be a day that we open these bottles.
Yes.
And we will know, you will know on a Belgian beer when you open it if it's going to be safe to drink.
Yeah.
If it's just like if the cap falls off, and you pour it in and it's flat, probably don't want to drink that.
No.
But if it's effervescent, I'm taking a sip.
You have to
know?
try. You have
taking
to
a sip.
try.
If it makes just a little bit of gas noise.
Yeah. And like foam, like, okay, I'm drinking this.
We're
Just
in.
enough.
So I did have one more.
Okay.
Since we are here in Mars, and kind of on the same theme as the last one. For the official beer of the borough of Mars, what beer are you making, or what beer would you recommend?
The borough of Mars?
Is
Or
this
the
not a
planet?
borough?
Or
This
the
is a
planet?
borough, yeah.
Okay.
Or the planet of Mars.
Ooh.
Well, so that's the hard thing, you know. I'm like thinking of this alien stuff. I mean, I would say, if the one is obviously Uncle Bob's that we would make, because that's just, it plays onto the lineage of the town and the heritage. Oh boy, something. So I'm struggling between like the Mars, the alien type, Martian type thing.
Get some alien champagne in there.
That would make. So the question is like, what one would I make for that?
Yes.
Oh boy, struggling. What was what's that Belgian style? It's like a beer de garde,
Okay.
but it has Mars in it. It has like a.
It's after you say that, all I can think of is Marsin, but that's not right.
Is it a beer de Mars?
It might be. It's French.
There is beer to Mars.
Yeah, that's what it would be.
And it literally translates into March beer.
Yeah.
March.
It's their version of
but
March.
with the Mars name,
Mhm.
that's what I would do. So it's a low alcohol lambic.
Oh,
Is what-
that's
this
interesting.
This is on Beer and Brewing.
So that should appeal to, the uninitiated drinkers in Mars. Because
Yeah,
it
because
would
it's
have
a lambic and a nice and fruity and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just a fruit beer for people.
These look like really hard beers to make. I mean, so like you can make a beer to Mars, right? You use the ingredients and you do a single infusion. But like I'm on the beerandbrewing.com website descriptor of it, which I feel like they're fairly accurate for like that quick and dirty.
Mhm.
I'm seeing decoction, 86 F temp rest, 170 like 60 to 90 minute boils, lambic grist of 30-40% raw wheat. Like these are hard beers. One does not just say, we'll just make a beer to Mars tomorrow.
Can't shoot from the hip on those.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you do it like once for the biannual, centennial, or whatever.
Mars New Year.
Mars New Year, beer to Mars. Yep.
Yeah, you don't do it all year.
That would be my choice. That's what came to my mind. And I'm like, it's complex beer. That would
I like
be
it.
Yeah. Beer to Mars.
You can still throw some like local fruits or whatever into it.
Yeah. You can have some real good fun with it. They might not see it for like 3 to 4 years, but
Right.
we got to brew it every year to blend young with the old. And
This is Beer to Mars 2 that's blended with Beer to Mars 1.
They can have some Uncle Bob's to tide them over.
yeah. Like here, have a single bob.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. When's the beer to Mars ready? You might not like it. It's totally different than this.
Great.
Why is it so sour?
Why is it sour? It smells funny.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's come back to the Cedar and Plank, which also hard to make.
Also hard to say because it's
Cedar
Cedar
and
and Slate. There
I
you
didn't
go.
look at the menu. I tried to do it.
Cedar and Slate.
Yeah, this
Cedar
is not
and
a
Slate.
salmon beer.
I was thinking about salmon, though.
Right?
We were talking
Yeah, 'cause
about
we were
fishing.
talking fish.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah. Cedar and Slate, the soft drink that is
Yes,
the,
soft drink.
the English
Yes.
the English mild soft drink for orphan children.
They gotta be orphans now?
Yes.
Anytime I think of children in Britain, it's orphans.
Yeah, all right.
I just think they're full of orphans.
It's just every one of them's just Oliver Twist.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, this is literally Oliver Twist. What he was eating when he was eating gruel was just dry oats put into this. So
You will have the oats with dark mild, son.
but yeah, it's a good drinking beer.
Yes.
Like Fonzie's trying to say, I'm sorry, or I was
Near
wrong.
beer.
But yeah, there is a lot of flavor once it warms up.
Yeah.
Like I said, it has that nice caramel nose to it. But then once it warms up and you can express more flavors, you get like a caramel back end to it. and there's a bit of a roast that carries all the way through the drinking experience. So yeah.
Well, it still has a certain level of sweetness to it as well.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a fan.
Yeah, enjoyable beer. So that means it's time to go to the podium. And that's where we rank all the beers bronze, silver, and gold. And Nick, you'll go last because you're going to rank your babies. The most hardest job of all. So we give you extra time to think.
Oh, boy.
But I'll go first.
Good, because I'm not sure yet either.
Yeah, it's fine. It's easy for me.
It's not for me.
But I think all the beers that we had tonight, they're very good. It's just, what it comes down to subjectiveness for me. It's just like, what do I like most? So bronze, I'm going to give to the Arctos 12 degree. It's a Pilsner, and Pilsners are fine for other people.
You got to like what you like.
Yeah. I mean, there's no fault in the game. It's a good Pilsner, and it has that extra bit of flavorfulness because of the Saaz hops. So it's really good for anybody who wants to get into Pilsners, who wants to taste what a Pilsner could be rather than just cracker water. So
true. Yes.
I'm sure there's other snootier people out there who might be more, like
you might be sharing a podcast with.
Yeah, they might be more discerning, but also Nick's already got the seal of approval from actual Czech people, so he doesn't care what your opinion is.
This is true.
When you sit all day and smoke ciggies and drink Czech Pil,
ripping butts and drinking pivo. Who cares?
Right.
So yeah, but that's bronze for me. And again, it's just style for me. Cedar and Slate goes silver. I think again, it's a really enjoyable drink. It has a lot of flavor to it, which is like impressive because of how small of a beer it is, and the grain bill doesn't lean on anything because it can't by definition.
No, yeah.
So the fact that you're able to express all those caramel and kind of roast flavors without making it like a dark, heavy porter or stout, it's impressive and it's enjoyable. And at 3.2, you can have a couple of them, so nothing wrong with that. But for me, gold goes to the Golden Boy IPA.
Nice.
It's so it's refreshing. It's bright. It's flavorful. The flavors are different than what the market is saturated with, but it still provides you with those nice, soft drinking notes from all the oats. And so, yeah, and also it just doesn't like wander into super sweet gloop glop, burnout IPA. So, yeah, it is just a very nice basic IPA with two types of hops that give you a nice different flavor profile. I enjoy that beer very much.
Awesome.
Gold for me.
I think I have a decision. And I will echo what Steve had said, that all of these are good beers. There is not a loser in the bunch. And some of it comes down to personal preference. But I think I have it set up. I think I'm going to go with the Cedar and Slate in the bronze medal position. And the only reason why is because you have to wait a couple of minutes.
You do. That is true.
And we'll blame the PLCB for that one.
I know. Or the health inspectors. They don't like cold rooms that are above 42. I mean, we don't have food in there.
So we're going to blame it on the man for that. But with that being said, it is a very enjoyable beer. If you're looking to have something to just sort of, just have a beer, like you were talking earlier, just to have something in your hand that you don't want to get verschnookered with or anything like that, this is a great beer for that. I know Steve doesn't, like anything below 4. That's his opinion and he's entitled to it. But say, for example, you're hanging out all day, great beer for it.
Yeah.
Great beer for it. If you're looking for something just to kind of unwind just a little bit, grab this beer. It's fantastic. I am a big fan of it.
Look, if I had like an 8-hour darts tournament, then I would consider.
Yes. You drink mild.
Yes, absolutely.
Then I'll consider it. But
in the silver medal position, and I will say in a fairly strong silver medal position, is going to be the Golden Boy, the IPA, and that is surprising because I don't like IPAs. I don't like them.
Right.
And so the sheer fact that this is in a strong silver says it all right there. This is a good beer. This is a good IPA for people that don't like IPAs, and it is a good IPA for people that do like IPAs.
Right.
And I like the flavor of it. It did have a bit of a strong nose for us non-IPA drinkers, but on the flavor, it was very well balanced. It had a good fruitiness to it, and it was enjoyable. And it was not, some West Coast, just shove hops in your stupid face kind of beer.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. But yeah, it was a very well-crafted beer. And I'll admit, I would drink it again. I would drink it again. I think the list has expanded.
Shocking.
Yes. So I have a running list of IPAs that I would be willing to drink again. I think it's up to like 8 or 9 now.
Nice.
So that says something.
So some of them aren't really IPAs. Some of them are like dessert beers that are
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Loaded with the good stuff.
But in the gold medal position, I'm going the Pils.
Nice.
I got to go the Arctos. If I had 3 of those lined up and I had to choose one of them, that's what I'm going with. Not only did I find it the most refreshing, I found it the one that was just my style. If I'm going to grab a beer, that's the beer I'm going to grab. I liked it. Well crafted. I could hand it to anybody, and anybody that has any semblance of good taste is going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I liked it. And so the Arctos 12, the Pils, gold medal position.
Awesome.
And now comes the main attraction.
Oh boy. This is hard. It's like, which child do you like most?
Mm-hmm.
I only have one, so that's easy for me now. But I go back to thinking of the styles that I get to brew the most of are your IPAs, which are, especially the way that we make them here, extremely technical. They're constantly iterative. They always are something that bring me new challenges. Just the way we make them again, because I like to keep that. I want it to be very hop forward, but I don't want it to be, throat tingly. And some hops are more conducive to that, like throat burn, just by the nature of how they grow. But yeah, so if I'm going to pick third place, and I didn't do this in any influence to you guys, this is exactly how I'm going to do it. And I'll try to explain it the best that I can, but bronze for me right now would be the Golden Boy. I think because I'm not the biggest fan of Eldorado hops,
Okay.
personally. I'm happy with how Simcoe and Eldorado play together. I think Eldorado is a hop that needs something else. I've done beers that were very heavy Eldorado alone and just wasn't pleased. And I think a lot of brewers that do a lot of hop forward beers would agree with Eldorado likes a friend. And so Simcoe is the one that could bring that like punch. There's a little bit of that cattiness to play with that overripe fruit sweetness of Eldorado. So that's my bronze. My silver, Cedar and Slate. Again, very challenging to make. I'm glad that we picked these styles to go through today, because these are like my favorite children. So yeah, Cedar and Slate. I love the technical attribute of it. Again, making that beer. It's very process oriented. ABV, I feel, plays a lot into beer. So if I'm going to choose, like that's a traditional style in 3.2. So I might be on that world of like sub 4s start to lose, I feel, just by the nature of it, a little bit of the interesting aspect that alcohol brings to beer. Yeah, that's why I always get into like this whole non-alcoholic beer thing. I'm like, I need to get into drinking these or trying them, or maybe there's a way to make them. And it's like defeatist, because beer is beer with alcohol in it.
Right.
And that's what adds to aroma and flavor and mouthfeel. It's not just there as the effect that you get from it. There's certainly benefits that it provides from it. So Cedar and Slate's my bronze. It's so hard to even say that that's a bronze, my silver. So hard to even say that it's my silver, but you got to pick. You got to pick. And then the top, Arctos 12. That's the one I think out of all the beers that we make here, most proud of, just because it's such a simple beer. And I always would like that whole Bell's conversation I had, like you make a Bell's too hard and you're like, I use all the same ingredients. Why is it not completely the same? Pilsner is the same thing. It's like, how can you get complexity and balance and nuance of malt or your water profile, your malt to come through, your hops to come through, and the yeast character to come through, and have it be smooth and the finish go the whole time, the whole spectrum. From the time it hits your nose, goes into your mouth, and you feel it, the weight of the beer, then you start to, then the tastes happen. It's like malt. There it is. Oh, wow. And then herbal, and then floral, and all these they're like ding, 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 ding on your tongue. And then you finish, and it all kind of like you're left with a remembrance of it. That's Arctos for me. So that's the gold.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's a good way of describing fans. Yeah.
Yeah. Hell of a lot better than what I did.
The whole way through.
Yeah. Look, he made it. Of course, he loves it. And
Yes.
of course, he can describe
They are all gold. I should have just done that. So for my gold choice, this, and I've been like, my gold, and you guys would be like, wait, you said gold 3 times.
Look, Nick, you wouldn't be the first one to try that, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't be the first one to be stopped.
I stuck to the rules.
Yeah.
I stuck to the rules. That's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, the other rule is after you do that, now's your time that you can promote everything Stick City. So website, Instagram, anything that you want to get out there, any events you're going to be at, let everybody know.
Yeah, stickcitybeer.com is our website. We have our food trucks and our operating hours here. We're open Thursday through Sunday. Thursday and Friday, 4 to 10. Saturday, 12 to 10. Sunday, 2 till 7. Food trucks every day. Again, the food truck schedule is on the website. We only do 1 weekly social media post. We try to keep it consistent. It also reiterates what's going on for the week. And we try to highlight a beer that's out there. So that's at Stick City Beer, both Instagram and Facebook. We operate out of Instagram, but our Instagram will post to Facebook and Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all in there at Stick City Beer. We got an upcoming event that's a really good one. This is something that we've really been focusing on a lot, is doing more collaborative work with some of these nonprofits. The newest one was the Rachel Carson Trails Conservancy. They're having their 25th anniversary for the Rachel Carson Trail Challenge, which is a 36-mile, 1-day hike/run on the entire Rachel Carson Trail. It's brutal. I've talked to people who've done it. I don't know how they do it. I thought for a hot second when we were going over this collaborative effort for the thing, I'm like, I'll train and do it. And quickly I realized I'm a brewer and I need more than just 3 months to train to do it, probably. 36 now. I probably got to be a little bit more deliberate on that stuff. So maybe next year. We'll see. But yeah, so they're celebrating 25th year. So we created a beer. It's a local IPA. We call them that whenever it's, and we did this with the PA Parks and Forest Foundation with Public Lands Shop as well. Before we call them, it's a local IPA. I think the other one was a local pale ale. Might have been an IPA too, I think. All local ingredients. And that one will be out for their event. They're having their 25th anniversary event, June 11th in North Park. So look them up. Rachel Carson Trails Conservancy. We'll have a beer. 20% of all sales of the entire batch are going to go back to the group. And they're part of the 1%. So that's part of our 1% givings.
Nice.
Right on.
And the trail challenge is on June 18th. If you would like to enter, you can start now and just run the whole damn thing, 36 miles. It won't be a bad deal. There's a lot of steep hills. People say that there's sliding involved.
Oh, great.
Climbing. So
Yeah.
that's probably, I'm really excited for that. So yeah.
Things I won't be doing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I will clap for you at the end.
Yes.
It's like you start in Harmer and end up in North Park somehow. I'm like, how do you do this? So, yeah.
That's a lot.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, no
for
problem.
coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on and sharing your beer with us and sharing your story with us. And I look forward to having more in the future. And off mic, I was trying to convince Nick to start doing Schwarzbiers because that's important.
We'll get there.
That's important.
They are important. They're great beers. Yeah. But again, that's like, people are like, well, why don't you make a Hefeweizen? I'm like, one doesn't just make Hefeweizen. The, clove and banana flavors are just lower tiered levels of what would become an off flavor. Mm-hmm. And you would want to highlight that. So we'll get there. We'll make a Hefeweizen one day.
All right.
Nice.
I will find the secret. But I won't just, so Schwarzbier is one that you gotta take some thinking.
You won't do it just to do it. You'll do it because you can do it right.
When it comes out, it's something that I'll be proud of, and that Stick City will be proud of.
Same. When either
and
of
captures
those,
will be proud to serve.
when either of those come out, let us know.
Oh yeah, for sure, we will.
Awesome. Well, if you want to contact us on social media to let us know when Schwarzbiers and Hefeweizens are at Stick City, all you have to do is search Hop Nation USA, and that'll get you Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to listen to brand new episodes of the Hop Nation USA podcast every Friday, as you should, then search Hop Nation USA in your favorite podcatcher like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Wild Turkey's no longer trying to advertise with us. That's nice. But if you're on any of those platforms, leave a 5-star review because
we are a 36-mile show, but we're going to drop out after 5.
And that's a bigger crime than me having to go find salmon at 10 o'clock at night now because I'm hungry. Damn it. But thanks again, Nick, for having us on, and you're having us in your space while we have you on.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you again.
guys for coming out. It's great.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much.
Oh, we'll be back next week with episode 251. Who knows what it'll be? We did get a nice handful of beers, though, from Greg in North Carolina.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
There's a good chance it's just a burial episode.
It took a lot to stuff that in the back of the Jeep.
Do you mean that as in physically or just like not drinking it all when you picked it up?
That's an inclusive yes.
Yes, okay. So, yeah, we might just do a burial episode next week.
Oh, darn.
No, nuts. One of them is a Schwarzbier.
It is.
Nice.
So, stay tuned for that, and goodbye.
Bye.